The following is a special presentation of the Outside Blitz. And now, here are your hosts, the fabulous Scotty Fraytown and the Cannonball, Alex Steele.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Outside Blitz. I'm your host, the fabulous one, Scotty Fraytown. As always, joining you week to week now. We're in the regular season. Joining me from the beautiful Traverse City, all the way up in Steele Twin Studio, the wonderful, incredible, the Cannonball, Alex Steele. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Oh, geez. Oh, stop it. You don't have to say all that. But, yeah, it is exciting that we are here week to week. You know, it's the happiest time of the year. It is football season, and we are in full swing.
Yeah, football is underway. Week one is in the books. We got, a lot to cover this week, man. We've got scores around the league. We've got a lot of news around the league. Lots of craziness. Lots and lots of craziness going on. We've got spit flying. We've got ejections happening.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of surprises that came with week one of the NFL season. A lot of upsets. Just interesting storylines going into week one and coming out of week one now. It's just like, holy smokes. From underperforming receivers to full-on blowouts to teams that you never thought would get blown out to surprise quarterback performances. I mean, you name it, we've had it this week. Week one is always just a crazy enigma. It's one of those things where, so many different little anomalies happen that you just wouldn't expect. And here we are, after week one, with a lot of head scratchers going on. But, Alex, we got some scores to jump into. You ready for these?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Jump into them. Here are your scores for week one in the NFL. We already covered the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Eagles beat the Cowboys 24-20. The Chargers also beat the Chiefs 27-21. We covered both those games last week. So
and I have to note the Kansas City Chiefs have not yet won a game in the year 2020. Well, scratch that. They won in the playoffs, but they haven't won since February.
Yeah, they haven't won since February. But we're going to jump into the Colts versus the Dolphins first and foremost. The Colts go out and just shock the world. They beat the Miami Dolphins 33-8. Daniel Jones suddenly looks like prime Peyton Manning out there. He goes 22 for 29 for 272 yards and a touchdown. And then he also goes out and rushes 7 times for 26 yards and 2 touchdowns. Daniel Jones was on fire in this game. Jonathan Taylor gets 18 carries for 71 yards. DJ Giddens 12 for 41. You also had Michael Pittman, rise from the ashes here out of nowhere. Michael Pittman, who was so pedestrian last year, suddenly looks like the Michael Pittman of old. He gets 6 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Warren, who, Alex, you pointed out was going to be an X factor in this game, 7 receptions, 76 yards. He has himself a game. And you know what? Crazy enough, we talked about underperforming receivers. Josh Downs, just 2 catches for 12 yards. He was on the field for such a low amount of snaps, just blows me away. And then on the other side, you get Tua Tagovailoa going 14 for 23 for 114 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Zach Wilson wound up coming into the game. He was 5 for 8 for 32 yards. Devin Achane, 7 carries for 55 yards. He was probably the most effective player on that team. Tyreek Hill, 4 receptions for 40 yards. Jalen Waddle, 4 receptions for 30 yards. Achane, 3 receptions for 20 yards. He had a receiving touchdown. This Miami Dolphins team was so pedestrian and just got the holy hell beat out of them by the Daniel Jones-led Indianapolis Colts. Alex, are you as flabbergasted as I am?
I am flabbergasted about how bad this. I think pedestrian is too soft of a word here. We knew that the Dolphins were cooked. We knew that the Dolphins were going to run into a lot of trouble this season because they didn't address their defense a whole lot. They send one of their players They got another one of their players back in Miami who never wanted to be in Miami from the Steelers, and they sent, their all-pro, multi Pro Bowl safety, whose name escapes me at the moment, and I can't believe it does.
It was the corner, Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey, yes. I mean, one of the most prolific defenders in football.
Yeah.
So we knew that the defense was in big trouble. I had no idea it was going to be this bad.
Yeah, they get Minkah Fitzpatrick back in that trade, but man, their corners, I mean, as soon as they traded away Jalen Ramsey, you could tell throughout the course of the offseason, since that trade, there was a little bit of like a buyer's remorse situation. They get Minkah Fitzpatrick back, which is fine. He's a very good safety, but he didn't want to be in Miami in the first place. And then you wind up looking over, and they are old Mother Hubbard, nothing in the cupboard. They have no corners whatsoever. And so they're trying out Mike Hilton, and they're trying out this guy, and they're trying out that guy, and then they're cutting this guy, and they're cutting that guy. It was insanity from the get-go. Their defense didn't get addressed. Their offense has been horrible. It's been terrible since last year. Where is the Tyreek Hill 60-yard go route? Where are those things? And there's a lot of distractions that are happening with this pissing match between Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa. And then Tyreek Hill's got these domestic violence issues and all this other stuff going on. It's like, what in the hell is going on in Miami? And now they've got even more problems. The wide receiver Jalen Waddle, he's now limited in practice. So now Tyreek Hill's going to have to step it up even more. And Jalen Waddle's got a shoulder injury. It's just Miami is falling apart at the seams here, are they not?
Yeah, absolutely. So it absolutely, you have to sit there and think about this. What could possibly have happened? Granted, this is a city with almost no laws. I mean, we joke about it. I mean, it's like, we drove by 3 dead hookers and a meth addict, to get to the crime scene. But, but joking aside, there is something schematically wrong here. And, this is something that should just not pique the interest, but as a Miami Dolphins fan, especially if you grew up with the Don Shula-led undefeated team, especially when you grew up, in the old days, and even remembering the teams of yesteryear, you have to sit here and wonder what happened. Because this is more than just a talent thing. This is more than just a coaching thing. Something's wrong with the organization.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems here. And for a team that at one point had one of the more prolific offenses in the entire NFL, now we're seeing, they're falling apart. Tua Tagovailoa has had a couple of years worth of concussions, and now you've got, all these injuries taking place, and you got the off-the-field stuff going on with Tyreek Hill, and now you got an injury to your number 2 receiver who really should be in like a 1A, 1B situation. With Jalen Waddle here, now he's got the shoulder injury. There's so much happening in Miami, and they're having so many issues, and then it doesn't get any easier now. Now they had an interview with Mike McDaniel. They're saying that they're planning to start Larry Borum now at right tackle on Sunday against the Patriots because their new right tackle, Austin Jackson, now has a toe injury. So, now you got to worry about protecting Tua Tagovailoa, who we've seen what happens when he doesn't get proper protection. That's a disaster.
Yep.
So, I mean,
and you might sit here and think that a toe injury isn't that significant, but we were at the combine and we watched a lot of those rookies, and what we kept talking about their kick out or their kickback. A move that requires you to have the balance on the balls of your feet. And if your toe hurts, you're not going to be able to effectively kick out or kick back. Am I wrong here?
No, yeah, your kick step is especially for an offensive lineman, your kick step is your bread and butter. If you don't have a good kick step, you're not going to be good. And that's going to be problematic here. Now you've got Austin Jackson out. You got Larry Borum in there who?
Who?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's not like they have high-end backups over there in these positions, and you're going to have to protect Tua Tagovailoa, and I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson's not the guy. We've criticized his play when he was with the New York Jets several years ago. We all saw that. We all saw the MILF Hunter, in his prime, which wasn't much of a prime, but Zach Wilson, he might be able to get you through a half a game, but I mean, he's not going to be able to carry this team on his back.
No, he's not. This is going to be problematic, and I know that the Dolphins, they attempted to shift their offense into a scheme that would allow Tua Tagovailoa to get the ball out faster, and allow for those shorter routes to be able to get the ball out quicker. But at the same time, it just hasn't been working in Miami. They need to shift back to the old scheme, and what they should have done is focus it on their offensive line, and they failed to do that, and the Colts exposed them over the weekend. Even with injuries to Jalen Jones in this game, he didn't practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring injury. He could be placed on IR for the Colts. But even without Jalen Jones, their corner, the Colts annihilated them and they really showed off really good command of their defense. Shane Steichen right now is looking like a
genius.
Yeah, he's looking like a genius for bringing in Daniel Jones and the way that this team has shaped up in week one and really just brought the rain. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Colts are just going to be, suddenly all pros and they're going to wind up going to the playoffs and all this stuff because, we saw the same type of thing out of the Saints last year, right, where they kicked off the year, 2 big blowouts and we were all like, holy crap, but then they fell off a cliff, right? But
yep.
At the end of the day, this makes you want to raise some eyebrows, like, huh? Okay.
Yeah, kind of makes you think about your fantasy stock with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, and yeah, it's not gonna be an easy stretch for the Colts by any stretch of the imagination. They got the Denver Broncos at home next week, and they got games with the Titans and the Rams, the Raiders and the Cardinals. They got a road game against the Chargers October 19th. This is not going to be, oh, you're right. This, they will be tested, and we will see whether this was just a flash in the pan against a team that is probably going to be one of the worst in the NFL this year, or if this team's for real.
Yeah, we're going to find out. And also going up against the Broncos, I mean, this is a good time to be going up against the Broncos because they disgustingly underperformed this last week. We'll be talking about that momentarily. But moving into the next game, let's talk about this Steelers team right now that, escaped the New York Jets. I mean, this was a fun game to watch. The Steelers beat the Jets 34-32. Look, I got to tell you, this Jets team took me by surprise. Justin Fields looked really good in this game. This was fun to watch. Justin Fields, 16 for 22, 218 yards and a touchdown. Fields also ran 12 times for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's the Justin Fields MO that we've grown to know and really just that athleticism that people have loved over the years. Breece Hall, 19 carries for 107 yards. Big day for him. And Braylon Allen, just 6 carries for 9 yards, but he did get in the end zone. He got the touchdown. Garrett Wilson doing Garrett Wilson stuff. 7 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. Breece Hall also had 2 receptions for 38 yards. Ty Johnson. Actually, I believe that's Tez Johnson, rather.
Nope, it says Tyler Johnson here.
Tyler Johnson. 2 receptions for 31 yards. And the rookie Mason Taylor, 1 for 20. I mean, this Jets team took this Steelers team to task. And it comes down to a Chris Boswell field goal to give the Steelers the lead at the last second. I mean, this was a game. And Aaron Rodgers also had himself a game for the Steelers, a big one. 22 for 30, 244 yards, 4 touchdown passes in this one. Jalen Warren, just 11 carries for 37 yards. This was a surefire, true shootout. You had DK Metcalf, 4 receptions for 83 yards. You had Calvin Austin, 4 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. Pat Freiermuth, 3 for 28. Jalen Warren had 2 receptions for 22 yards and a touchdown. Ben Skoranek, there's a name, 1 reception for 22 yards and a touchdown. Jonnu Smith, 5 receptions for 15 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers was spreading the ball out, and Aaron Rodgers looked very effective in this game, in spite of the fact that the Steelers' defense clearly struggled containing the Jets. The Steelers survived. Aaron Rodgers almost looked like the Aaron Rodgers of old. This was a great performance by both offenses. Both these teams really took each other to task.
Yep, and you know what? This, despite the fact that he lost by 2, this is a feather in the cap of Aaron Glenn. This is proving that he can take a team like the New York Jets and make them competitive. And don't forget, Justin Fields had an opportunity to lead his team down the field to get a last-minute field goal, but that Steelers defense, ramped it up at the last minute. They had a short pass on the middle, and who was there to meet him? Wham! Steelers defender hit him so hard that he, crossed his eyes and dropped the ball. And that was it. That you need a clutch play like that in nut cutting time, as we say around here. But take absolutely nothing away from this New York Jets football team. They look nothing like the Jets teams of old. I think that there is a changing of the guard here. But I did not have Aaron Rodgers, 22 for 30 and 244 yards and 4 touchdowns on my bingo card this year. Just when you think, he's toast, he actually ends up aging like a fine wine.
Yeah, he did. He actually, and sometimes that change of scenery can be a big help. This was a huge, huge step in the right direction for Aaron Rodgers finishing off his career. This is supposed to be his last year. We're going to see how that goes. But the Steelers wind up pulling up a win. They did have some issues with one injury issue. The safety Deshaun Elliott, who is an incredible safety. He's been really good for their defense. He's ruled out for the upcoming game versus the Seahawks due to a knee injury. So, in turn, the Steelers went out and signed the recently released former Patriots safety, Jabril Peppers, to a 1-year deal. So the Steelers, they lose a starter who's a high-end starter, but they pick up another starter who's going to be able to fill that role and is very comparable to what Deshaun Elliott does. I like this signing, don't you?
Yeah, Sausage and Peppers still find some work.
Yeah.
So, it just goes to show that if you have the talent in this league, and somebody needs somebody, you're always a phone call away.
Yep.
His attitude aside, his past aside, if you can get it done, when you need to, it just proves that you're always a phone call away.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Steelers, they've got some stuff to monitor. Corner Joey Porter Jr., he's got a hamstring injury. Rookie defensive tackle Derek Harmon still dealing with that knee injury. Both those guys, they did not practice on Wednesday. So they're going to need to monitor those two things. We'll see if they can get back out on the practice field. I know Harmon wasn't out there for game 1, but the Steelers still managed to get it done. I would like to see what happens when Harmon gets out there. They did draft him in the first round. They drafted him to be a starter for a reason. So that one's got to sting not having him out there, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Could be a reason why this Jets team was so close. If we take a look at the schedule here, the AFC North is one of the toughest divisions in football, but the Steelers surprisingly have one of the easier schedules to start the season. I mean, they do have a hard matchup against the Vikings on September 28th, but they got the Seahawks, the Patriots, then they got their cousins in the Browns and the Bengals. And we always say division games always hit different, So, but compared to some of these other teams in the league, the Steelers really have an opportunity to catch their breath and get into a good stride before the real challenges begin.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of been a Steelers thing. That once they work their way into a groove, it gets they start moving pretty well, and then it kind of spells trouble for the rest of the league. For my Vikings, I really hope that the Steelers don't hit their groove by that time. That game is supposed to take place in Ireland, by the way, over Week 5 against the Vikings. So we'll see how that works out. In our next game, man, we got the Jags and the Panthers. The Jaguars beat the Panthers 26-10. Trevor Lawrence, 19 for 31 for 178 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Travis Etienne, man, welcome back. 16 carries, 143 yards. He had 8.9 average on the day. Brian Thomas Jr., he did have a rush for 9 yards and a touchdown. Conspicuous by his absence was really Tank Bigsby with only 5 carries for 12 yards. We'll talk about him momentarily. A guy that you noticed and you picked up on was Brenton Strange. He had 4 receptions for 59 yards. Also, Diami Brown, the former Washington Commander, with 3 for 52. Travis Hunter, 6 for 33. Travis Etienne had 3 for 13. And Brian Thomas Jr., just 1 reception for 11 yards. What in the hell is going on with Brian Thomas Jr., and why is Liam Cohen not using him?
Yeah, it boggles the mind. And don't forget, Basil Rootin' Tootin' had his first 3 carries of the NFL season for 11 yards. Always got to keep an eye on the guys from the combine. But I really think that despite these questions we have about a receiver of the caliber of Brian Thomas Jr., didn't we talk about how there might have been injury concerns? There might have been concerns about, a sophomore slump. That always seems to be, a thing in football.
Yeah, it's a common theme when rookies get after their rookie year and they get to that year 2 and they have a sophomore slump. We've seen that in the past. Brian Thomas Jr., he had one of the best rookie seasons out of anybody last year. And it just kind of took me by surprise to see just how little he was used in the passing game by Liam Cohen. And he was targeted 7 times, but, just 1 catch. It was baffling. I don't know if Liam Cohen's just not using him right or whatever the case may be, but this guy was a first round, or I believe he was a first round pick, if I'm not mistaken. And he should be used way more than what he is. It's baffling. The Jags did come out and say that after this week, you're going to see an uptick in the in the defensive snaps that Travis Hunter is going to receive this upcoming week. So we're going to be seeing Travis Hunter a little more on the defensive side of the ball, playing in that corner position. I'm excited to see what he does there. As for the Panthers, Bryce Young, 18 for 35, 154, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. You got to see Chuba Hubbard get 16 carries for 57 yards. Hubbard also had 3 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. So Chuba Hubbard getting involved.
Chuba.
Yeah, exactly. Teteroa McMillan, 5 receptions for 68 yards. But overall, this was a pretty soft performance by the Carolina Panthers. Didn't look anything like the team that we saw at the end of last year when they got for those last 4 or 5 games, and we thought this was going to carry over into this year. Yeah, not so much. These guys looked rough here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure what's in the water down there. I would say that the loss of Adam Thielen might play into it a little bit, not having that veteran presence around. But, it might have just been – it could have been that Florida weather because, it does get kind of warm and hot and sticky down there. But it is baffling. You only put up 10 points against this Jaguars team. Perhaps the defense has something to say about that. There were 2 picks. If you're an NFL quarterback and you're throwing more than 1 interception, it might be time to take a look at the depth chart. Or at least kind of review it on film and say, what did we do here?
Yeah, they did that last year, and they pulled him for a few games, and he came back, and Bryce Young looked like a completely different quarterback, but now he looks like he's reverted back into the Bryce Young of old. I don't know what in the hell is going on here, but the Panthers, they got to get it together. They've got another tough matchup coming up, but, the Jags right now, they actually, after this game, they made a move. The Jags must have realized something or realized there was a player on that roster that they didn't need because running back Tank Bigsby got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 2026 5th and 6th round pick. So the Jags get 2 picks out of Tank Bigsby. And I would assume at this point, Bigsby's probably going to be the backup over there behind Saquon Barkley for the Eagles. Because Will Shipley hasn't been it, but what a surprising move!
Listen. My first reaction to this was wow, And again, and this is something I've been saying a lot lately, and it needs to be said again. The rich keep getting richer.
Yes.
I don't understand how Philadelphia continues to be able to grab these good players, great players from other teams. They're constantly looking at what they're doing. How can they better themselves? You think they may have all the riches in the world. They got Jalen Hurts. They got Saquon Barkley. They got A.J. Brown. They got Devontae Smith. They got Jahan Dotson. Let's go pick. They have Jalen Carter. They have that vaunted Eagles defense. Hey, why don't we go get this guy, though? It's like, for all the hate that Philadelphia gets from Chiefs fans mostly, from beating on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl to always seeming to be ahead of the curve, you have to give this organization credit for staying ahead of the curve and for always looking to the future, and not just the far future, but the immediate future.
Yeah, the Eagles, they always find a way to bring more pieces in. It's almost like they never stop looking to bring more into the fold here, and they get another really good piece of the puzzle here in Tank Bigsby. It's baffling, and with how well Tank Bigsby did last year for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I was surprised that the Jags were willing to send him out the door. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of this opens the door for Bashal Tootin, who we touted at the Combine. We loved at the Combine, after the Combine. We were singing his praises. He gets picked up in the 4th round. He just screams like he's a Liam Cohen kind of guy. You see the effect of how well ETN did this week. Look, this could open big doors for Bashal Tootin, does it not?
Hey, this might also lead credence to the conspiracy theory that we were sitting next to Liam Cohen at the Combine. I mean, we might be seeing 5D. We might be seeing 4D chess here. You never know.
Maybe he's a loyal listener all along. I'm convinced we were sitting next to Liam Cohen. I really am. But here we go. Bashal Tootin he's up the depth chart here. Just an interesting situation. Moving into our next game, though, we've got the Cardinals beat the Saints 20-13 in a much closer game than I expected. Kyler Murray, man, 21 for 29, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. Interesting situation here with the running back room. Trey Benson, 8 carries for 69 yards, outrushes James Conner, who had 12 carries for 39 yards after James Conner had that monumental season last year. Marvin Harrison Jr.,
Marvin.
Yep, Marvin winds up 5 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Trey McBride with 6 receptions for 61 yards. Connor also got 4 receptions for 5 yards. He got in the end zone on one of those catches. The Cardinals, man, they're making it work here. Also, Spencer Rattler on the Saints side, 27 for 46, man. 214 yards. Alvin Kamara had 11 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. Jawan Johnson, 8 receptions for 76 yards. Chris Olave, 7 for 54. Rashid Shaheed had 6 for 33. In what world do you think it's acceptable to have Spencer Rattler throwing the ball 46 times?
What world is it acceptable to have an NFL quarterback of any identity throwing the ball 46 times? Yeah, I mean, at some point, you have to balance out the passing game and the running game. You know, and the fact that the entire rushing room had 11, 15, 20, 22 rushes across all 4 of the running backs. You mean to tell me that you're gonna throw the ball twice as much as you run? What are we doing here? And Spencer Rattler's not that guy. You know, he's not that good. So, so you're basically asking him to carry the offense on his back? His back is probably made out of popsicle sticks.
I mean, we have been critical of Spencer Rattler on this show a lot. And I mean, they just had him throw the ball more than double what they ran the ball, which is insanity to me. I don't think Spencer Rattler's a good quarterback. I don't think he's an NFL caliber quarterback. And in 46 throws, I mean, look, we're talking about 27, 46. So we're talking close to 50%. And look, 214 yards, and he didn't score a touchdown on 46 throws. That should tell you something about this offense and about him as a quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler is a joke as a quarterback. The Saints over here, but to their defense, to their defense's credit, rather, they kept him in this game. And the Cardinals, they struggled a little bit battling with that Saints defense. One thing for that Saints defense, though, that's going to be a little troubling for them is safety Julian Blackmon. He's set to undergo shoulder surgery this week. He's likely going to miss time. So, Blackmon got picked up in the offseason, and now he's undergoing shoulder surgery. So they go out and lose one of their key defenders and one of their key free agent pickups from this offseason.
Oof, that's no good. Yeah. And the injury woes do continue. I mean, Cardinals offensive lineman Will Hernandez was limited in practice on Wednesday due to a knee injury. So you got a couple days before you stamp the okay card, but at the same time, you can't really have any guardsmen or tackles down in the offense, can you?
Yeah, really. In the case of the Cardinals, yeah, probably not. I mean, you're going to have Kyler Murray running for his life here if Will Hernandez isn't out there. Hopefully, he's good to go for week 2 for Kyler Murray's sake. But we're going to see what the Cardinals wind up fielding here. I felt like the Cardinals looked pretty darn good in week 1, but granted, they were taking on a very bad Saints team. So we're going to see if the Cardinals can kind of keep rolling and keep this momentum going. We're going to see if Marvin Harrison Jr. can continue having that breakout season that everybody's been hoping for. We did see a little bit out of Trey McBride this week, so we got to see some of him. We're going to see if Trey McBride can kick it into high gear like he did last year.
I'll tell you what, if they got a matchup against the Panthers, so start them in fantasy if you got them.
Yeah, it's opportunity here. That's what it is. I mean, the Cardinals are going to have to take advantage of the situation here. I'm sorry. They're going to take advantage of the situation here. 2 easy matchups in the first week. They've got one of the easiest schedule. I think they've got the 4th easiest schedule this year. So they're going to have to take advantage of some of these matchups and continue winning if they're going to find a way to make it into the playoffs. Next up, Commanders go out and beat the Giants 21-6. Look, the Commanders actually struggled a little bit in this game, much to my surprise here. I was a little baffled by Jaden Daniels going 19 for 30 for 233 and a touchdown. He played mistake-free football to his credit, but he was 19 for 30. Bill Crosby.
Bill Crosby.
10 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown. Jaden Daniels had 11 carries for 68 yards. Deebo Samuel also doing Deebo Samuel stuff with the handoffs and whatever, playing that gadget role. He had a carry for 19 yards and a touchdown. Deebo also had 7 receptions for 77 yards. Look, it was a quiet day for Terry McLaurin, 2 for 27. It was pretty quiet for every other Commanders receiver. I want to see if Terry McLaurin can get going here. Also for the Giants, Russ Wilson, 17 for 37, 168 yards. Tyrone Tracy, 10 carries for 24 yards. Russ Wilson also had 8 carries for 44 yards, showing off some of that leg work. Malik Neighbors, 5 receptions for 71 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson had 6 receptions for 55 yards rather. But this was a rough game for the Giants offensively. I felt like their defense did their absolute best to keep them in this game. And Russ Wilson, he looked like garbage. We expected him to look like garbage. Giants head coach Brian Daboll comes out and says, well, he's going to remain the starter for week 2 in spite of the struggles versus the Commanders. Jackson Dart as the QB2 over there. I'm a little surprised by that move. But
yeah, me too. Especially since you're staring down the barrel of the Dallas Cowboys, in Dallas, at Jerry's World, and the fact that you're starting the season on the road twice, I mean, that's not good, period. But if it was me, I would probably, have Jackson Dart start the first half. Just see what the kid's made of. What do you really have to lose? You're probably still going to be one of the worst teams in football. I mean, you shoved Tommy DeVito out the door, my guy. You know, you have Jameis Winston as the QB3, you know, which I would, you know, hey, hot take here. Put Jameis Winston at QB2, Jackson Dart at QB1, and Russ Wilson if your head's on fire.
Yeah, I think Jackson Dart. They should start Jackson Dart. I'm a firm believer in the fact that they should start Jackson Dart. There's no doubt in my mind that Jackson Dart should be in there. He impressed in the preseason. He looked much better than Boots expected, than I expected, than you expected. We sat there and said, I don't know about Jackson Dart. Well, Jackson Dart looked pretty damn good in the preseason, and I have this strange inkling of a feeling that we're going to see Jackson Dart pull a start here and look all right. So,
yeah,
you know,
and I think part of the problem with that is we were comparing him to Shadur Sanders because we were staring at that 9th pick going, they're going to pick Shadur, they're going to pick Shadur, they're going to pick Shadur, and then they picked Jackson Dart, and I fell on the floor laughing. There's video evidence of that. But you know, despite that, you know, as you said, he impressed in preseason. He looks better than we expected him to. Looks a heck of a lot better than Tyler Shuck, rather. But, you know, so you'll roll the dice. What do you have to lose?
Yeah, see what you got. I mean, if you don't know what you have in the kid, you got to just roll with it. And right now, that's kind of what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to roll with what they've drafted and what they decided to pick up. Jackson Dart seems like the best of the bunch. Look, I like Jameis Winston. I think last year he was very fun to watch for the
Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, for the Browns, but, you know, here we are. Do I think that he would be a good fit for the New York Giants? I mean, he might get Malik Neighbors a lot of catches because he loves to target the wide receiver one, but at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to be pulling up many wins for you. Give Jackson Dart a shot. I mean, Brian Dable, it's like you said, what do you have to lose at this point? If he doesn't win or do something to show improvement for this football team, Brian Dable's going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already had, 2 seasons of bad play. The first season that he had with Daniel Jones, he actually had good play and made the playoffs. But since then, it's been 2 years of crap. You know, it's a little bit of a problem.
And I wonder, you have to wonder with Daniel Jones's performance with the Indianapolis Colts, do you think it might have just been a coaching problem with Daniel Jones?
Yeah, that might be a question too. I mean, Daniel Jones was good in his first year with Brian Dable. So it makes me wonder what the malfunction is there. I want to see if Daniel Jones continues this pace. I mean, is Shane Steichen just the answer to Daniel Jones's problems? I mean, we don't know. So there's a lot going on.
We've been fairly critical of Shane Steichen ourselves. You know, he was the guy that decided to throw it to Tyler Goodson in the AFC in the last game of the season to give the Texans the AFC South championship.
Yep, he is. So, I mean, we're going to find out. And also for the Commanders, they've got problems of their own, particularly on special teams. Their punter, Tress Way, is listed as questionable versus the Packers for Thursday Night Football. That's tonight. But then they go out and they sign former 49ers punter Mitch Wishnowsky. So, I mean, they're kind of – I mean, I like Wishnowsky. He's not a bad punter. I was surprised he got released this offseason. But, man, I mean, Tress Way is one of the better punters in the league. Very surprised by this. Do you think Wishnowsky has a chance to take the job, or do you think he just winds up being a fill-in?
I think he's got a shot. Let's give him one. I mean, I've never heard of him personally, but you know, there's always time to shock the world. Depending on how often you have to punt anyway. Yeah,
I mean, they don't punt often. We'll put it like that. They do not punt often when it comes to the Washington Commanders. Their offense is pretty potent. Like I said, I'm surprised they struggled in this game, but they got it done. They're 1-0, and we're going to see how that continues for the Commanders. Oh, I've got a little technical difficulty here. There we go. Next up, let's talk about the Bucs and the Falcons. The Bucs go out and pull one out against the Falcons, 23-20. Look, Michael Penix Jr. did not look half bad for a guy who was missing his number one receiver, Drake London. He winds up injuring his shoulder in this game. Drake London, he's going to wind up being available for week 2, it's looking like, versus the Vikings. But for a guy that lost his number one receiver, Michael Penix looked pretty damn good in this game. 27 for 42, 298 yards and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson, 12 carries, 24 yards. Michael Penix had 6 carries for 21 yards and a touchdown to tie this game. Bijan also had 6 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. Crazy receiving numbers for that running back. Not something you expect out of Bijan Robinson. Kyle Pitts, 7 receptions for 59 yards, and Drake London, 8 receptions for 55 yards, and Ray McLeod, 3 receptions for 51 yards. Interesting stat lines by the Falcons. And on the other side, Baker Mayfield looking a little questionable, but still getting in the end zone quite a bit. 17 for 32, 167 yards, 3 touchdown passes on this game. Mayfield also carried the ball 5 times for 39 yards. Bucky Irving looking a little questionable. 14 carries for just 37 yards, only a 2.6 average on the day.
Interesting.
Emeka Egbuka, though, was the big story of this one. People got really excited. 4 receptions for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Mike Evans with 5 receptions for 51 yards. Sterling Shepard had 3 for 39, and Bucky Irving did have 4 receptions for 8 yards, and he did get in the end zone on one of those receptions. If you are a Buccaneers fan, or if you're looking at this Buccaneers team, do you think that Egbuka is the new wide receiver 1, or was this just an anomaly for his first game?
Well, I got 2 different schools of thoughts on this. If you look at the numbers just from a hard numbers perspective, you would think that the Buccaneers would have dropped this one to the Falcons. Especially since, Baker Mayfield only completed 17 passes, but he got in the end zone 3 times. So now part of this, I would say, has to fall on the shoulders of Emeka Egbuka from the Ohio State University, which is quickly becoming we talk about Iowa being tight end university. Ohio State has proven to be over the years wide receiver university, and Bucky Irving. You got some question marks about one of the most prolific rushers from last year. This whole Buccaneers team has a giant question mark over its head. I have faith in Baker Mayfield. He might get better as the season goes on. It's always about the week 1 jitters. And as far as the Falcons go, that's 6 catches for 100 yards. I have an idea why that might have happened. We're seeing a lot. We've been seeing it a lot over the past several years, where the quarterback will just throw to the running back in the back, behind the line of scrimmage, in kind of a screen pass formation or an otherwise, quick slant route. Which I've never been a fan of those plays, because a good defense will sniff that out and make it an easy tackle for loss. Maybe if your quarterback is savvy enough, and maybe if your running back is explosive enough, you can get that to pull off. Maybe there's a big wheel route that happened, or maybe they're looking to have Bijan be more of a receiving running back, but. We've seen him before. We've seen him plow in the line before. What say you?
Well, yeah, and that's my thing. I think, we're in a league right now that is a passing league and is quickly moving toward being more and more and more every day of a passing league. Bijan, teams seem to like these running backs that are multifaceted. Bijan Robinson, he never came off to me as a guy who was a passing or a receiving running back, but in this game, he showed he's more than capable. Not a lot of touches for him. I mean, his 18 touches. He only had 12 carries. I'm surprised they had Tyler Algier out there for 10 carries as well. But, splitting the backfield here, kind of interesting. To me, I would like to see more of Bijan Robinson getting run more like 20 times a game, but I understand why they're trying to preserve him for later in the season and make sure that he's good to go. But Bijan still put up the numbers that he needed to put up. The Bucs, on the other hand, when it comes to Egbuka, like you said, wide receiver university out there in Ohio State, lot going on there. But they're going to have even more wide receiver depth here, because wide receiver Chris Godwin has now returned to practice after last year's ankle injury. He's hopeful to play in Week 5 versus the Seahawks, because he is on injured reserve, so he does have to miss 4 games. But, we're going to see a 3-deep situation out there in Tampa for Baker Mayfield and company. So they're going to be able to spread out opposing defenses and really open up some of these throwing lanes for Baker Mayfield. Going to be an interesting situation for them. But the Bucs, man, they pull one out, and they beat the Falcons, who, if you recall, swept them last year. And they luckily still made their way into the playoffs. So good on the Bucs getting that done.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that means one of my bold predictions for 2025 has been shot.
Yeah.
Yep. They got swept. I said they were going to get swept by the Falcons. Well, if you win the first game of the year, kind of hard to make that come true. So bittersweet moment here.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, let's talk about the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals go out and beat the Browns. They escape the Browns, really, 17-16. First of all, I'll talk about the Browns first, and then we'll jump into other stuff. Joe Flacco, man, 31 for 45, 290 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Dylan Sampson, interesting enough, 12 carries for 29 yards. He leads the team in carries.
Hey, what did you say?
Here we are. Also, Jerry Jeudy, 5 receptions for 66 yards. Dylan Sampson also had 8 receptions for 64 yards. And here's an interesting one. Harold Fannin Jr., he goes out and has 7 receptions for 63 yards. Cedric Tillman, 5 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown. And David Njoku had 3 receptions for 37 yards. So spreading the ball out nicely over there with the Cleveland Browns. And, you know, the Browns actually took the Bengals to task. But it just, am I the only one that sees the Cleveland Browns every year and sees them as, like, extremely slow starters? This is the second year in a row. If you recall last year, they got blown out by the New England Patriots in week 1 out of nowhere. Now they're nearly losing to the Cleveland Browns. And Joe Burrow, he looked extremely bad in this game. 14 for 23, 113 yards and a touchdown. Chase Brown, 21 carries for 43 yards. He only had a 2 average on the day for 1 touchdown. T. Higgins, 3 receptions for 33 yards. Noah Fant, 4 receptions for 26 and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, just 2 receptions for 26 yards. This was an ugly game for the Cincinnati Bengals, and really for both these teams. But man, the Bengals, they still pull it out. But man, this is not the Bengals team we saw at the end of last year. That back half, that back 8 games where they looked like, you know, they could make a run in the playoffs, you know, and now not so much, right?
Yeah, and you know what the difference is? Those 2 interceptions. Because take a look at these team stats here. If you take a quick look at this, it says here that, you know, they basically won in every statistic. You know, the Browns had more first downs. They were more efficient on 3rd down. They were 2 for 3 on 4th down. And they had 71 total plays. They had the ball for 35 minutes and 49 seconds. And they had, you know, these teams were probably equal in penalties, but they had 20 more penalty yards. They only allowed 2 sacks. They only punted the ball twice. They had 327 total yards, 278 through the air, 49 on the ground, and an average of 4.6 yards per play. So they were moving the football, and they were possessing the football. I'm telling you, turnovers can kill a team's momentum, and somehow, some way, the foot of Charlie Jones, you know, is probably, and the foot of Evan McPherson is probably the difference maker here. He had a 35-yard field goal for 5 points, you know, and he must have kicked a field goal to get him in the lead. So, yeah, it's like this Browns team is very surprising. And, you know, the Bengals defense needs to be credited because they only held the Browns to 16 points.
Yeah, which is sort of surprising, but not when you realize it's the Browns, you know, and that's, you know, like the Bengals, their defense is notoriously bad. You know, it's like, were the Browns inept or was the Bengals defense playing decent? Like, or maybe it was a combination of both. We'll find out. But at the end of the day, the Bengals, they pull one out. The Browns have some problems of their own, though. Corner Denzel Ward, he's limited in practice on Wednesday due to both shoulder and Achilles injuries.
Uh-oh.
So Yeah, don't. He's their number one corner. He's one of the best corners in football. And
From the Ohio State.
yep. So Denzel Ward. I mean, we're going to hear more about him, I'm sure, as the week goes on. The Browns did get some decent news as running back Quinshaw Judkins did sign his rookie deal.
Finally.
Yeah, but he is meeting with league officials in New York as they investigate his alleged domestic violence that took place on July the 12th, the arrest that he had. So we're going to see if the league winds up, punishing him in any way, shape, or form, suspending him. We've seen those types of things happen. We just don't know what's going to go on with Quinshaw Judkins. He's still a massive question mark for this team, in spite of the fact that his rookie deal got signed. He didn't participate in camp. He hasn't been in any practices until this past week. And we're going to see if Quinshaw Judkins is, in fact, going to be playing or what. Nobody knows.
And how he's going to perform. Or, as you kept saying, is Dylan Sampson the guy that's going to take that job from under his nose?
Yeah, and really under the nose of Jerome Ford, too. I mean, we can't forget Jerome Ford is, in fact, still over there. And Jerome Ford performed extremely well for the Cleveland Browns over the last several years. So we're going to find out if who it's going to be, whether it's Sampson or Judkins or whomever. We're going to have to wait and see and find out who that's going to be in that leading that backfield over there. But in any case, the Bengals pull one out against the Browns. Next up, the Raiders go out and beat the Patriots 20-13. All three of us took the Patriots in this one. Not so much. The Raiders, man, showing up and showing out. They pull out the win 20-13 here. Interesting game, to be honest with you. I was a little flabbergasted by the fact that Geno Smith looked as good as he did. 24 for 34, 362, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Ashton Genty did not look as good as we expected him to. Just 19 carries for just 38 yards. He had just a 2 average on the day. He did get in the end zone, though. Brock Bowers gets 5 receptions for 103 yards. Jacoby Myers, 8 receptions for 97 yards. Trey Tucker had 2 receptions for 54 and a touchdown. And Dante Thornton had 2 receptions for 45 yards. And also, Michael Mayer, 4 receptions for 38 yards. Notoriously, Pete Carroll systems are where tight ends go to die. Not so much in this situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if maybe Pete Carroll had, a change of heart, or because he's been out of coaching for a hot minute. So, maybe he just needs time to work his anti-magic. And really, if you picked up Ashton Genty as a fantasy player or just had stock in Ashton Genty as a rookie, I would not be pressing the panic button just yet. It's week 1. We tend to look at this and go, okay, he's really going to have a coming out party. But, sometimes sometimes the afterburners don't kick in until like week 4 or week 8, but, definitely 19 carries for 38 yards. If you're only getting 2 yards a carry, something might be wrong. At least he got in the end zone. So
yeah, that's the big thing. He got the points on the board. I mean, at the end of the day, but the lack of an average makes me a little concerned, especially when you spent the draft capital that the Raiders did spend to get him. So it makes you wonder what exactly is going on there with Vegas, especially with a running back of that caliber who looked so good at Boise State last year. As for the Patriots, Drake May, 30 for 46, 287, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Travion Henderson only had 5 carries in this game. I don't know what is up with that. Travion Henderson is the best runner they have on this team. He had a 5.4 average with those carries. Receiving-wise, Keyshawn Boutte, man, he had 6 receptions for 103 yards, man. He had a big day. Hunter Henry, 4 receptions for 66. Stephon Diggs had 6 for 57. So spreading the ball out really nice there is Drake May, and he had 46 passes on the day. Kind of an interesting thing. We didn't expect to see that number of passes out of Drake May, but here he is. He also had 4 carries for 11 yards. Hey, the Patriots didn't look half bad on the offensive side of the ball if they could just get in the end zone. That seems to be the big problem here, right?
Yep, absolutely. When you only get in the end zone one time as a team, and maybe 2 times. It's kind of weird. Demario Douglas had 2 catches for -2 yards, and he still got in the end zone. So make that make sense. But, there must have been a missed extra point then. No, actually, the 1 touchdown pass from Drake May was to Demario Douglas. So, yeah, you have all these prolific they're moving the football. If we take a look at the team stats, they had, 336 yards to Las Vegas's 389. Pretty even keel. Both teams were moving the football. But like you said, Travion Henderson from The Ohio State University seems to be a trend on this episode. But again, you're right. He's the most prolific rusher on this team. Why don't you lean on him more? Why don't you use the running game to set up the passing game? And Kayshon Boutte, I didn't have that guy on my bingo card. I didn't even know he existed.
Right. He had himself a hell of a game. Boutte, he got hot at the end of last year, but it was kind of an interesting little spot for him to be in. If you look at his numbers from last year, it was the last 3 games of last year, one against Buffalo. It was both games against Buffalo. One game he had 18 points. The other one he had 21 points. Against the Chargers, though, he only had 4 points as far as fantasy goes. But, I mean, look, the game against Buffalo, 5 receptions, 95 yards, and a touchdown. The second game against Buffalo, 7 receptions for 117 and a touchdown. So he's a very spotty, streaky type of receiver. We don't know what we're going to get out of him moving forward. This could be an anomaly. This could be something fantastic. Right now, he is listed as questionable, though. So people need to kind of pay attention to Kayshon Boutte and what's going on with him. The Patriots also have defensive coordinator Terrell Williams. He's going to be away from the team for the foreseeable future due to an unforeseen health issue.
Uh-oh.
So they don't have their defensive coordinator there. Mike Vrabel, more of a defensive head coach as it is, so we're going to see what Mike Vrabel does, but just an interesting little spot for them to be in. As for the Seahawks, corner Devin Witherspoon and the rookie safety, Nick Emenwari. Witherspoon's got a knee injury.
I talk about this. I think we might be talking about the Raiders, and I think the connection to the Seahawks might be because Pete Carroll coached there for a while.
That's exactly what it was. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good, but it's important news, and we're going to be talking about the Seahawks here in a minute.
I'm used to these old-ass retread coaches. That's all it is. I'm thinking of Pete Carroll, and I'm thinking of the Seattle Seahawks. He's still stuck there in my brain. But we'll be talking about the Seahawks next anyway. Let's jump into them. 49ers and Seahawks. The Niners go out and beat the Seahawks 17-13. While I'm at it, Seahawks corner Devin Witherspoon. He does have a knee injury. Rookie safety Nick Emenwari, he's got an ankle injury. Neither of them practiced this last Wednesday, so something to pay attention to moving into the upcoming week. The 49ers, though, they do beat the Seahawks here. Interesting little spot here for them, too. Sam Darnold, 16 for 23, 150 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns or interceptions, so he did play mistake-free football. But also interesting.
Also touchdown-free football.
Yeah, but what's interesting to me is the backfield here for the Seattle Seahawks. Zach Charbonnet, just 12 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown, out-touches Kenneth Walker III. Kenny gets 10 carries for 20 yards. Ken Bone Walker here, just non-existent. Jackson Smith and Jiggle looked pretty darn good, though. 9 receptions, 124 yards, but everybody else was just non-existent as far as the receivers go. Cooper Kupp, who was their big offseason signing, just 2 receptions for 15 yards. This Seattle team, they tried to come back in this one, and they could not. The 49ers stood them up. Brock Purdy, 26 for 35, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Christian McCaffrey with 22 carries for 69 yards. He has a 3.1 average on the day. Brian Robinson Jr. did get into this game, 9 carries for 33 yards. But receiving-wise, just want to throw this out there. Ricky Pearsall, man, 4 receptions for 108 yards. Ricky Pearsall, through the last 4 games, I think he ranks something like 3rd in receiving yards. In the last 3 games that NFL, like the last 3 regular season NFL games that have been played, Ricky Pearsall ranks like 3rd. So it's just something to look at. Christian McCaffrey also had 9 receptions for 73 yards. So we talked about the calf injury with McCaffrey, and we talked about how he's dealing with a little Achilles tendonitis issue, but McCaffrey sure looked effective in this game, did he not?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if the 49ers were just playing possum. The pedestrian, points and the stats, kind of point to, we always say division games hit different. And there were, almost every game from this week was a division game. And I asked earlier, the Browns, had 2 picks, against the Bengals, and the Bengals escaped. Well, how do you throw 2 interceptions and still escape with a victory? You have Sam Darnold go 150 yards through the air. Yeah, I mean, and 124 of those yards went to Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I think the Sam Darnold experiment in Seattle is toast.
I agree with you. I think Kevin O'Connell knew what he was doing with Sam Darnold, but I don't know that the Seattle Seahawks know what they're doing with Sam Darnold. I think they're waiting for the next great running quarterback, and I think Jalen Milroe is going to be a guy that fits their system a lot better than Sam Darnold does. But here we are. Sam Darnold is drawing starts, and then what's crazy to me is that Zach Charbonnet right now is out touching Kenneth Walker. But here's the thing. In the offseason, they were talking about it. The Seattle Seahawks coaching staff was talking about it. They want the guy that's going to be more available and reliable as their running back. And notoriously, over the course of the last several years in particular, Zach Charbonnet has been the more reliable and available running back between him and Kenny Walker. Has he not?
Yep, he is incredibly underrated. He was the guy that was doing the most in the preseason. He's always been a very prolific running back. People, if you have Zach Charbonnet on your fantasy squad, even if he's just sitting on the bench, have him handy in case your top running back has a bye week. Because I will tell you, this guy can get you through a week, and we saw it here. 4 points. He got 10.7 fantasy points. Yeah. Almost 11, and that's pretty good. If each of your players can get at least 10 points, and if you got a starting star quarterback like a Josh Allen or a Lamar, obviously you're looking for 25 or 30. But with Zach Charbonnet here, you can't really go wrong with him. He is, as you said, available and reliable. And even with all of that, I mean, the Seahawks total yards, they only had 230. They still had 150 yards less than San Francisco. So, and time of possession is a thing too. The Niners had the ball more. They had more plays. The time of possession is always an underrated stat that a lot of people don't seem to pay attention to. And sometimes with the Browns, doesn't go your way. Sometimes with the Niners, it does go your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be just a crazy thing to see how the 49ers are going to be able to possess the ball because they've got some offensive weapon problems now. First and foremost, Brock Purdy. He's set to miss 2 to 5 weeks due to a shoulder injury and toe injury.
Ow!
Yeah. And so quarterback Mac Jones is going to be taking over. We've seen Mac Jones come in. We saw him start a number of years for the Patriots. We saw him come in for Trevor Lawrence last year, at the end of last year when Lawrence was hurt. This is not going to bode well for the 49ers, in my opinion. They also have a problem where tight end George Kittle is headed for injured reserve with a hamstring injury. He's set to miss, Yeah, he's set to miss 3 to 5 weeks. So we're not going to have that. And they also they've got a special teams issue here. They go out and waive kicker Jake Moody, the former Michigan man. They waive him after all his missed kicks. He's been missing a ton lately. They go out and sign kicker Eddie Pinheiro to a 1-year deal. So they've got Eddie Pinheiro signed for the rest of the season as their new kicker. And then the Niners, their hodgepodge of receivers continues. They go out and get wide receiver Kendrick Bourne on a 1-year deal as well. So, I mean, they've got a lot going on in San Francisco. This team is on the brink of, literally, and now from a record standpoint, falling apart, right?
Yep, they're right at the edge of the cliff. And we were talking about last week where we thought Kenny Bourne was going to end up, and almost as soon as the episode posted, hey, he went with the Niners. So hopefully he's a Band-Aid, but it's a Band-Aid that's covering a stab wound.
Yeah, it's just not going to be enough, I don't think, for the Niners, and it's not going to help Mac Jones any. Mac Jones is going to struggle here with the 49ers. We've seen this whenever the 49ers, they lose Brock Purdy and they send in a guy who is a backup, it always turns into a mess.
Trey Lance.
And that's what this is going to turn into. It's going to turn into a mess. I can see it turning into a mess. This is just going to be a disaster here for the Niners. As for the Seahawks, I mean, we've heard about their defensive woes here. If Devin Witherspoon isn't out there or Nick Emenwari aren't out there, that's going to be a little problematic for the Seahawks, especially for a team that has such a vaunted secondary. I mean, they did hold the Niners to 17 points. They've got a good defense. This is going to kill them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially since you're going to Pittsburgh next week, you got an easy game against the Saints. So, and then you're going against the Cardinals on Thursday night on the 25th. Then you got the Buccaneers, Jaguars, and then you got the Texans. So, I mean, you have a so-so schedule, but at the same time, if you got Sam Darnold, seeing ghosts and not, getting the ball to his receivers, except for Jackson Smith and Jigba from the Ohio State University, then you're in for a world of hurt, and it's only going to get harder as the season goes on. Even with this schedule, I can't really see them doing too much in the NFC West.
No, I can't. I think this is going to be a complete mess for both of these teams, really. I think they're both in deep trouble right now, and they better figure something out after, now that we've seen them week one, they need to figure something out for themselves. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely problematic. Moving forward, let's talk about the Broncos beating the Titans 20-12. Cam Ward, man, what a rough debut. Just 12 for 28, 112 yards. Tony Pollard had 18 carries for 60 yards. He only had a 3.3 average on the day. Receiving-wise, Tony Pollard was the leading receiver with just one catch for 29 yards. Calvin Ridley, 4 receptions for 27 yards. On the other side, the Broncos, man, they struggled as well offensively. Bo Nix, 25 for 40 for just 176 yards. He had a touchdown and 2 interceptions on the day. R.J. Harvey looked pretty good running the ball. He had 6 carries for 70 yards. J.K. Dobbins had 16 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown. Harvey looked like the better runner, but they continued to feed J.K. Dobbins. I wonder how long that's going to last over there in Denver.
I think the over-under is week 4.
Yeah, I think this turns into the R.J. Harvey show awfully quick. Receiving-wise, Cortland Sutton, rather, he had 6 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. Troy Franklin, hey, it's Franklin, 4 receptions for 44 yards. Evan Ingram, 3 receptions for 21 yards. But, hey, the Broncos go get it done. But, man, these Bo Nix struggles, man, they make me a little concerned. I mean, after that great rookie year, we see him struggling hard here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 25 for 40 is not, really, really good. And again, any NFL quarterback worth his salt should limit his throws to 35. 30 or 35 is probably where you need to end up. Once you start climbing into the mid 40s, you're really behind the 8 ball. And the Titans simply ran into a brick wall with the Denver Broncos defense. When you only get held to 12 points, it kind of shows. And the fact that Cam Ward only had, 28 throws and completed less than half, it's rough. But again, first game of the season, you're in an NFL situation now. You're not in the U. You're in Tennessee. So, we're going to have to see what happens with both of these teams. As far as the Tennessee Titans are concerned, their next matchup is at home against the Los Angeles Rams. That's going to be a mess. And then they have another division matchup with the Colts and then they have another division road game against the Texans. So yeah, pretty rough start for the Tennessee Titans if you're getting all three of your first three division games out of the way early.
Yeah, all three of those games look like a massacre. And both these teams, even though the Titans did run into a brick wall when it comes to the Broncos defense, the Broncos defense now has some problems here. Defensive lineman John Franklin Myers, he's got a knee injury. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw, he's got a quad injury. Both of them did not practice on Wednesday. So what goes on with them? Also, Broncos tight end Evan Ingram, he was limited in practice due to a calf injury. So Bo Nix loses a target there of a consistent tight end here. But that's sort of, when it comes to Evan Ingram, he had a good run in Jacksonville, but this is kind of like the MO for Evan Ingram. People forget how injury prone he was over his career and has been over his career. He's turned some good seasons into big contract, but there's an injury history there when it comes to Evan Ingram, right?
Yep, and at some point the injury bug is going to catch up to him. This might be one of his last years in football. Evan Ingram. Let me just get a quick look at his profile here. If we see here, he's 9 years in the league. So, yep. He's still got a little bit of tread and tires, but he's 31 years old. And as we always say around here, once you start to hit 30 and like your 30s, you start to regress. We've seen it happen all the time. So, maybe he's got two or three good years left, maybe. But at the same time, you really have to wonder, is this it for Evan Ingram?
Yeah, it kind of looks like it could be it, but we're going to find out. I mean, like, he's 31 years old, so he does have tread on the tires. But when you start hitting that age, especially at like these skill positions like running back and like at tight end and wide receiver, those are the moments where it's like, all right, you hit the other side of 30 and you start, like you said, you start to regress and it starts to become a little problematic, whether or not your body can hold up, whether or not you've lost a step. We've heard that so many times in regards to guys like Harrison Smith, always lost a step. Well, some guys do, some guys don't. It also depends on the position. Some guys, we've seen linemen play until they're 40, offensive linemen. So it raises questions. Recently we saw Jason Kelsey, play all the way till he's 38, 39 years old. So we're going to see just what happens with Evan Ingram. But, the injury history there always made me wonder. And like, especially like, for example, for fantasy football, I felt like he was always a crapshoot because you never knew if Evan Ingram was going to get hurt at some point throughout the season. You always question his health. And here we are. And I mean, all throughout his time with the New York Giants, he was hurt. All throughout his time with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he suffered an injury that caused him to miss certain games. He had, I think, one full healthy year with the Jags. I mean, I got questions about the health of Evan Ingram. And the Jags sent him out the door for a reason. Now he goes to the Broncos. It's game one, and he's already hurt. So I've got questions about the health of Evan Ingram moving forward. As for the Titans, offensive tackle J.C. Latham, he's got a hip injury. Defensive tackle Tavondre Sweat, he's got an ankle injury. Safety Quandre Diggs, he's got a hand injury. All three of them did not practice on Wednesday. So we're going to see, if the Titans are going to have those guys. But you lose all three of those guys, woo, God, you're in deep doo-doo, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't lose the small house, Tavondre Sweat. I mean, you need to eat that space up. And if you open it up, the running backs are just going to run all over you. And, yeah, I mean, losing one or two, if you lose all three of those guys, you got an offensive tackle, you got a defensive tackle, and you got a safety. It's, two big nasty linemen and a secondary piece. It's not good. And, the Titans already need all the help they can get, so they better hope that Cam Ward can turn on the Jets.
Yeah, and Cam Ward has never been a runner. If you look at his time in the U, he was never really a runner. He's more of a pocket passer type, and he's going to be running for his life over there. This is going to be an issue. Losing Latham. So I'm going to wait and see. But, I mean, so far, Cam Ward has struggled. We got to give him, a little bit of grace here because he is a rookie, right? But it makes you kind of go, all right, buddy, you were the number 1 overall pick. We expect more out of you
Yep.
than 12 for 28. So we'll see how that goes. Moving forward, and one that I know that you are just looking forward to slamming the upper management on. The Packers go out and beat the Lions 27-13 in an absolute flabbergasting, just one-sided affair.
Yep.
This game, man, I'll tell you what, I was watching it and I was blown away by how the Lions struggled. Jared Goff, 31 for 39 for 225, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. David Montgomery had 11 carries for 25 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 carries for 19 yards. Receiving-wise, Sam Laporta, 6 receptions for 79 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4 for 45. Gibbs had 10 receptions for 31 yards. Javonte Williams had, Jameson Williams, 4 receptions for 23 yards. The lone touchdown came in garbage time to Isaac Tesla, the 1 reception for 13 yards and a touchdown. On the Packers side, Jordan Love, 16 for 22, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day, no picks. He had mistake-free football going on. Josh Jacobs had 19 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. He had a 3.5 average, so the Lions still did a pretty good job slowing him down. He's a big physical back, so it was a little surprising to see how much they kept him at bay. Romeo Doubs, 2 receptions for 68 yards. Jaden Reed had 3 for 45 and a touchdown. Tucker Kraft, 2 receptions for 16 and a touchdown. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Green Bay Packers went out and blew the doors off when it came to how much yardage they were gaining. I'm not going to sit here and say that they blew the doors off as far as, the way that they were just beating on Detroit. But there were some problems here when it came to the Lions. And one of them, this is going to be one of those moments where I say, what did I say? What did I say? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I said that when Frank Ragnow retired, that those days of David Montgomery running up the gut were over. I said that on this show. I said it to people outside of this show. And everybody looked at me like I was a nut job. And here we are, David Montgomery, 11 carries, 25 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 carries for 19 yards. They had a 2.3 and 2.1 average, respectively, in this situation. And, everybody told me I was crazy for saying that the coordinators were going to be a problem, for saying that this coordinator switch-up was going to be an issue. And here we are. The coordinator thing is an issue. It's a problem. How in the hell do you have Jameson Williams running curls? Like, why? He's one of the fastest receivers in all of football, and you've got him running curl routes. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. That's the type of shit you should be having Amon-Ra St. Brown run. Why is he running that? And a lot of people looked over and said, well, these coordinators aren't going to be that big issue. And Detroit fans, I've seen this a million times, and I've heard this a million times from Detroit fans, where a guy leaves town and, well, he sucks anyway. Well, no, not so much. In the case of Ben Johnson, Ben Johnson's a good offensive coordinator. The current offensive coordinator right now, I've got a lot of questions, don't you?
Yeah, I've got a ton of questions. And really, it all falls on the head of one man. And, the two of us have, gone back and forth on this. I've kind of leaned towards your side on this. Dan Campbell. Okay. He's the guy. He is supposed to be the guy that is putting the pieces in place and, calling the shots. And when it comes to nut cutting time, knows what he needs to do to secure the game. And really, this game was over at halftime. I mean, we started to have a little bit of a comeback, but really, this team was dead up until that Isaac Tesla touchdown. You think about this. The box score reads as follows: blanked in the first quarter, 3 points in the second quarter, 3 points in the third quarter. When in the fourth quarter, it was 17-6.
Yeah.
And then you finally get this touchdown at garbage time to Isaac Tesla, who's probably, everybody's thinking he's probably going to be the white version of Calvin Johnson. I'm hopeful that the kid can give us some more reps, but it's just like you said. Why is Jamison Williams not running deep routes? Why is Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best possession receivers in football, only getting 4 catches for 45 yards? How is Jared Goff 31 for 39, but he only gets 225 yards? What are you doing trying to pass the ball just 2 yards upfield? You're not trying to hit the sticks. You're not trying to bomb it out. You're just trying to dink and dunk, and you're paying for it. For as accurate as he was, he needed to get to at least 300 yards if he's going to throw the ball 39 times and only get 225 yards out of it. I mean, the pick doesn't help. We've seen Jared Goff get picked off. We've seen Jared Goff throw 5 picks to the Texans last year, and they still pulled out in front. Now, I will say that the Packers did pick up Micah Parsons, and, he was very disruptive. Penei Sewell was getting thrown around like a rag doll by Micah Parsons. And here's the more insulting thing. Micah Parsons only played 29 defensive snaps, something around those lines. So you mean to tell me that a player that had a back issue that came from Dallas and only had 29 defensive snaps was still able to stymie this Lions offensive line? I'll tell you how. Because Frank Ragnow's not there in the trenches, and you got Graham Glasgow stinking it up at center. I've never been a fan of Graham Glasgow. I've always seen him as subpar. I've always seen him as kind of a goof, And Dan Skipper, where is he? He skipped town, And these two new coordinators, I'm telling you, it's. You're trying to put the pieces together in week 1? What are we doing here? And upper management, again, I have to say this. Detroit Lions fans, have been saying, the whole thing with trying to talk about this getting Zadarius Smith. There was rumors about, Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati. There was rumors that they might get their hands on Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. And I'm sitting here, Brad, you got to do something. Give us something. Zadarius Smith may not be a tremendous defensive player, but Aiden Hutchinson can't do it all. And what does Brad Holmes say? We good. Yeah, you're good. You're not great. And this is why. If you are complacent with the players that you have, and if you are sitting there in complacency, you should look at that score and say, yeah, we good. We're not great, but we good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I look at the Detroit Lions, and we were sort of pounding the table for them to get an edge rusher. I felt like there were so many options, particularly in the NFL draft, and there were so many moments in the NFL draft where the Lions could have made a move for an edge rusher and could have solved a lot of the defensive needs. And especially, with the Isaac Tesla pickup in the 3rd round, I thought it was silly to trade away all that draft capital for this year and next just to go get Isaac Tesla. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. But if you look at the situation now, I mean, and Brad Holmes, yeah, you need an edge rusher instead of focusing on a second edge rusher because, like you said, Aiden Hutchinson can't do it alone. Brad Holmes goes out and signs Jamison Williams to a 3-year, $83 million contract. So, they get him signed to a deal, which, okay, you lock down Jamison Williams, but you're not using him right. The coordinator's not using him right. And to what you said, Micah Parsons only played 29 snaps in that game. One of those snaps turned into a forced interception by Micah Parsons by applying pressure to Jared Goff. I mean, this is the type of stuff that the Detroit Lions needed to do. And you heard all of the list of those high profile names that Brad could have gone and gotten, right?
Yep.
And he didn't. He went out and he let every one of them slip through the cracks. Zadarius Smith goes to Philly. Trey Hendrickson gets a new deal. Myles Garrett gets a new deal. Micah Parsons winds up going to the Green Bay Packers, who beat the hell out of you in this week. I mean, there's a lot of questions here as far as these coordinators go. I had questions as far as these coordinators go. Yeah, and you're right. You're 100% right. If you're throwing the ball 39 times a game, break 300 yards, do something. At least when it came to the Ben Johnson system, it was zone coverage busting. When it came to the Ben Johnson system, it was take everything underneath and make plays with your legs. And even though I condemned him in a way for it, Ben Johnson's system worked. That was the thing about the Ben Johnson system. It worked. And, it tore teams apart because the league is notoriously shifting towards zone coverage. That's why Ben Johnson has been successful, is because he took his offense and he molded it to follow what the league is doing. Oh, everybody's going to zone. Well, shit, I'll make my whole defense based on tearing apart zone. And that's why Ben Johnson has been successful. And here we are. You got this guy who's got one of the fastest receivers in football running curls. I don't get it.
Here's something else you guys need to think about. The Lions are backed up to the 1. Okay. And, they're trying to get out of the end zone. It's 3rd down. What do these guys decide to do? Run Monty up the middle. Well, that would have worked if Frank Ragnow was running up there. But I saw the Red Sea part, and I saw a Packers defender looking David Montgomery in the face, and thank God he was able to get out of the end zone. We could have had a safety. You're backing your punter up into the end zone, and you're begging for a blocked punt at that time. So, there is something schematically wrong with these running calls, with these play calls. We saw it in the Michigan game against Oklahoma. Why don't you let Bryce Underwood, open up the playbook a little bit? And then he went 9 for 24, but I digress. It's like, people think they know football, and honest to goodness, I'm no genius. I'm no football genius, and I know you study football more than the average person, but we're not there on the front lines. But at the same time, what are we doing here? Even we can see that this is not the way to go.
Yeah, it's problematic. This whole thing has been problematic for the Lions, and for the Packers. They look like world beaters right now. They look like the bee's knees. They look like the real deal. And mind you, this is a Packers team that they've made the playoffs the last 2 seasons. So I mean, there's a lot of questions going on here about what's going on in the NFC North and what's going on with the Detroit Lions. And if you recall, I had predicted them to miss the playoffs this year. And right now, and after what I saw in week 1, that did not look like a playoff team. Mm-hmm. It looked like a disaster. So the Lions, they go out and drop one to the Packers. Both these teams, they've got some issues going on here, mainly with the Packers here. But Packers guard Aaron Banks, he's got an ankle and groin injury. That's a very common thing for him. He was hurt almost all last year with San Francisco. So I'm not completely surprised that Aaron Banks is already hurt. Corner Nate Hobbs gets a knee injury, and also Micah Parsons, he's got the back injury. They're all listed as questionable for the game versus the Commanders tonight on Thursday Night Football, so we'll see how that one pans out. The Packers did go out and do something wild to me. They signed wide receiver Christian Watson to a 1-year, $13.25 million extension. It's going to keep him through 2026. I don't like this signing one bit, but at the same time, if you do pick up his 5th-year option, which they could have, it would have paid him a lot more money. So I kind of get what they're doing here. Not entirely a fan. We'll see what happens. This is probably like a prove-it type deal for Christian Watson, don't you think?
Yeah, because we've seen him, he's been really good some games. He's also had some critical drops. He's kind of been like, flash in the pan and, so. We really thought he was going to start coming out, 2 years ago. But honestly, that it's probably you hit the nail on the head. This sounds like a prove-it deal for Christian Watson.
Yeah, a lot of injuries for him as well. A lot of hamstring injuries, a lot of knee injuries, ACL tears. We've seen it. A lot of lower body stuff for Christian Watson. So we'll see what happens with him. As for the Lions this upcoming week, offensive lineman Taylor Decker, he's got a shoulder injury. Linebacker Jack Campbell, he's got an ankle injury. Neither of them practiced on Wednesday. We'll see if they make their way into the starting lineup this upcoming week. But if you lose Taylor Decker and Jack Campbell for this next game, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a big problem because you got the Bears at home. Ben Johnson's coming home, and I don't know. I mean, we'll get to the Bears in a minute here, but I have to imagine that Ben Johnson has all the designs in the world to beat his former team.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one bit with the way that Ben Johnson is and the way he carries himself. He knows how to beat his former team, that's for sure. Next up, let's talk about the Rams and the Texans. The Rams, they squeak one out against the Texans, 14-9. This one, I mean, a very surprisingly low-scoring affair. The Rams, man, Matt Stafford, 21 for 29, 245, 1 touchdown. Kyren Williams, 18 carries for 66 yards, just a 3.7 average on the day, but he did get in the end zone there. Receiving-wise, Puka Nacua, man, looks like Puka Nacua. 10 receptions for 130 yards. Devontae Adams making his presence known. 4 receptions for 51 yards. Matt Stafford doing what he does best. Meanwhile, the Texans, C.J. Stroud, 19 for 27, 188 and a pick. Nick Chubb, 13 carries for 60 yards. He had a 4.6 average on the day, which was not bad. Stroud also had 5 carries for 32 yards. Higgins, 2 receptions for 32 yards. Jaden Higgins, Xavier Hutchinson, 2 receptions for 30 yards. Dalton Schultz had 3 receptions for 28 yards. Watson had 2 receptions for 27 yards. And Nico Collins just 3 for 25. The Texans were spreading the ball out quite a bit here, but I mean, C.J. Stroud looked like he was getting harassed all game long. That Rams defensive front is wild. Jared Verse was all up in his face all day long. This was just crazy. It comes down to just a ball getting punched out and a fumble recovery to end the game. The Rams pull this one out. The Texans go 0-1 to start the season for the first time in a while. Man, this one was brutal.
Yep, and again, credit that Rams defense. Definitely an underrated defense. That they have. Just like you said, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Those are the straws that are stirring the drink. They're doing an excellent job of filling the defensive gap that Aaron Darnold left when he retired. They were a very surprising option. I picked them up in fantasy. And, it almost led me to a victory. Of course, I chose to start Bo Nix over Kyler Murray and I had a handcuff too. So I'm like, kids, go with your gut. If you've got a quarterback wide receiver handcuff, use it. But back to the game here, C.J. Stroud, you know what the funny thing is? I kind of forgot that he was still with the Texans, even though last 2 years he's been a very proficient quarterback. So so it's like how did this slip my mind? I mean, you are talking to the guy that mistakenly did not know that Keenan Allen was with the Chargers all those years. Derrick Henry on the board, but still, I mean, a pedestrian performance like this, we talk about sophomore slumps. Are we talking about a junior slump for C.J. Stroud here?
Well, C.J. Stroud's been struggling, and the reason he's been struggling is because the Houston Texans have been mortgaging their offensive line for the last 2 seasons, and I don't understand why. And you're not going to be productive unless you protect C.J. Stroud, who is a pocket passer. He is not a running quarterback. He is not an elusive quarterback. He is a pure pocket passing quarterback, and they're expecting him to be great against some of these great defensive fronts, and it's just not going to be a thing. I'm flabbergasted, and I said in this offseason, I was blown away by what in the hell they were doing down in Houston, giving away guys like Laramie Tunsil, who was the biggest, best player you had on that offensive line. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. But at the end of the day, the Houston Texans go out and drop one to the Rams. They start out 0-1. Matt Stafford, gets it done in spite of the fact that he has a back problem and, in our opinion, still needs Tommy John. But I
stamp the bingo card.
Yep, he still gets it done. The next 2 games, these 2 primetime games, let's call them what they are, man. These were thrillers. The Bills
classics.
pull one out against the Baltimore Ravens, 41-40. The Buffalo Bills get it done. Our good friend of the show, Tyler Dean, one of the co-founders of this show, he messaged us saying, well, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go put my toaster in the bathtub, is what he said.
Well, hopefully he didn't fill it with water first.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, the Josh Allen, man, 33 for 46, 394 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Cook had 13 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen also had 14 carries for 30 yards and 2 touchdowns. Keon Coleman, 8 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown. There's the guy that Boots has been talking about for a while. Khalil Shakir, 6 receptions for 64 yards. Josh Palmer, 5 for 61. James Cook had 5 for 56. Dalton Kincaid, 4 for 48 and a touchdown. The Bills, I mean, both these teams lit up the stat sheet. Lamar Jackson, 14 for 19, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a 9.4 average on the day. You got Lamar Jackson, 6 carries for 70 yards. He had 11.7 on the day and a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 7 receptions for 143 and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 for 35 and a touchdown. I mean, these guys loaded the stat sheet. I'm blown away that the Ravens, they were up with about 6.5 minutes left. They were up 40-25 and gave this game away to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills come roaring back with 6.5 minutes left and put up all those points to pull out a victory here. What a game. This one was, as you said, a classic.
Yep, absolutely. It's just going to be one of those games that that live on. We could be seeing a potential divisional matchup. We could be seeing a preview of the AFC Championship game. Or if luck is bad enough, that we could see a wild card round. But no, I really think this is a truly a divisional matchup. And it felt like a divisional game.
Yeah, it felt like a divisional round matchup, like something you would see in the second round of the playoffs. But if it happened in the AFC title game, boy, we would be in for a treat leading into the Super Bowl. Just a war between these two teams, a war in the playoffs last year. And the Bills, they get the better of the Baltimore Ravens again. But man, what a crazy game. You love what both these teams are doing. The only real news about both these teams, though, the Buffalo Bills, man, they've got a little issue with James Cook. He was limited in practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring injury. And the injuries have a tendency to linger. Let's not forget, though, the Bills still have Ray Davis hanging around there. So we're going to see if Ray Davis winds up drawing a start or what their plan is. But at the end of the day, James Cook, man, kind of pay attention to what's going on with him and the hamstring issue. And last but not least, a game that I was super fired up about, that everybody was a little concerned about. And man, talk about a roller coaster of emotions. The Minnesota Vikings pull out a victory over the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football, 27-24. Look, I'll tell you what. First of all, going through the numbers, Caleb Williams, 21 for 35, 210 yards and a touchdown. He had 0 picks, though. He also had 6 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown. He had a 9.7 average on the day. DJ Moore, 3 receptions for 68 yards, and it could have been a whole lot more. Olamide Zaccheaus, he had 4 receptions for 42 yards. Roma Dunze, he had 6 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown. Cole Kmet had a reception for 31 yards. This was DeAndre Swift, rushing-wise, 17 carries for 53 yards. He had a 3.1 average. Meanwhile, on the Vikings side, JJ McCarthy, 13 for 20, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Jordan Mason, 15 carries for 68 yards and a 4.5 average on the day. JJ McCarthy also with 2 carries for 25 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Jones, 8 carries for 23 yards. And Justin Jefferson, man, 4 receptions, 44 yards, a touchdown. Aaron Jones had 3 receptions for 44 and a touchdown. Jalen Naylor had a reception for 28 yards. Hawkinson also had 3 for 15. Adam Thielen, he technically, according to the stat sheet, it doesn't count as a reception. But Adam Thielen did have a catch in this game for a 2-point conversion as well, making his presence known. First of all, when it comes to the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson had his team rolling. And when all I can say is when those scripted plays run out, it looks like Caleb Williams is about as lost as can be. He's got that deer in headlights look. And when the going gets tough and he starts getting rattled and starts getting beat on the way that we saw after the halftime in that game, he's got nothing left. He was just lost. And I don't know how, as a first-round draft pick, as the number one overall pick in last year's draft, you can be lost to that level. And it just, he looked so good for such a large chunk of the game. And then he overthrew DJ Moore twice. I mean, he was overthrowing receivers, missing receivers. He had DJ Moore wide open at one point, and completely overshot him going toward the sidelines. It was a busted coverage. And any quarterback worth their salt makes that throw and turns it into a touchdown. And we're having a different conversation about this football game. But at the end of the day, Caleb Williams, he crumbled. And to the Minnesota Vikings credit, their defense, in particular, for those 3 quarters where the Bears walked into the third quarter and they were up 17-6, the Vikings defense was what kept them alive in this football game. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that JJ McCarthy is the guy. Okay, I'm not. Because I still have, the jury's still out. I saw 3 quarters of bad football, and I saw 1 quarter of really, really, really good football out of JJ McCarthy. And a lot of people are going, oh, he's him. Well, I'm not there yet. And like I said on this show before, I want to be proven wrong by JJ McCarthy. But what I saw was magic in the 4th quarter by JJ McCarthy. That's what I saw. I saw an absolute dart to Justin Jefferson in traffic, threading the needle, great touchdown throw. I saw a great throw to Aaron Jones, who also made a great catch in coverage for that 2nd touchdown. I saw JJ McCarthy come off the edge, get in there, and really just pound that ball into the end zone, and TJ Hawkinson making one of the best blocks I've ever seen TJ Hawkinson make. And when he left Detroit, all I heard was how TJ Hawkinson doesn't block. Man, I'll tell you what, it sure as hell looked like he did a hell of a lot of blocking there. And as far as his running back crew, I don't give a shit what anybody says. Jordan Mason is RB1. He's better than Aaron Jones. He needs to be the bell cow back. Aaron Jones needs to be the pass catcher. That's just how this thing needs to go. But J.J. McCarthy showed a lot of mental fortitude in this game. He showed a lot of talent, and so did Kevin O'Connell. And the last guy, well, there's a couple guys I want to give credit to. Those 2 defensive tackles, Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, they had 13 pressures combined in this game. That's huge, and including 2 sacks in this game. That's wild. You had Andrew Van Ginkel almost come away with a pick 6. It turned into a pass defended, but he had almost one of those patented pick 6s in this game. And Will Reichard, Will the Thrill as they call him, with a 59-yard field goal that tied the record for the longest field goal in Soldier Field. And he came out and was ready to go. And J.J. McCarthy, like I said, he showed so much mental fortitude in this game. I'm just flabbergasted by the whole thing that he did what he did to bring this team back. The Vikings are going to have some problems. They're going to have some issues coming up here that they're going to have to deal with moving into Sunday Night Football. But Ty Chandler, their running back, he's set to miss a few weeks with a knee injury. He's responsible for the kickoff that they brought out of the end zone. Rather than taking a knee, he brought it out of the end zone, made sure he secured the ball, so that way the Vikings weren't wasting a timeout on that 2-minute warning. They've got Andrew Van Ginkel and Jeff Okudah, one of the corners that we have. Both didn't practice on Wednesday. Both guys are in concussion protocol. That's problematic going into this upcoming matchup. We got a lot to think about here against Atlanta here. And they also aren't going to be without Blake Cashman, the middle linebacker. He's likely to miss a few weeks due to a hamstring injury. Thankfully, Eric Wilson is on the roster, so Eric Wilson's going to be able to fill in. And he filled in quite well last week. If you recall, he had a blocked punt. Eric Wilson is a former Minnesota Viking that left town and came back to Minnesota and has played extremely well in week 1. We'll see how he does in the future. But this Vikings team, man, I got to tell you, I really hope that the performance of JJ McCarthy in the fourth quarter really carries over. It seemed like he figured it out. He got over the jitters, and he started being him. And it was beautiful to watch how he just kind of evolved. We saw him basically grow up in real time, and it was just amazing to watch. Alex, what say you?
Yeah, it must be noted here that you are absolutely, for those first 3 quarters of football, all you you were apoplectic.
Oh yeah,
and we were all like very like, oh boy, here we go. He's gonna drag it, and he's not the guy. You stuck with him for 10 years, and at one point you sent us a text in the group chat, and you said, "I have seen all I need to see." Yep. But after that game, I basically took the voice of Morgan Freeman. He did not, in fact, see all he needed to see. And you know what? It's like just what it comes to the mental fortitude. And really, in the NFL, when you throw a pick six, it is usually devastating. Yep. I got a question for you, though. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. His first pass was a pick six. Who do you think I'm talking about?
First pass was a pick six, and the greatest of all time.
NFC North.
Is that Aaron Rodgers?
Nope. His predecessor, Brett Favre.
Oh, yep.
Yep. Brett Favre became one of the greatest Packers of all time, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. One of his first throws was a pick six. Yep. Most people would just lay their shield down and die. Not JJ McCarthy. We saw what he was capable of in Michigan. Yes, we've been critical of him throwing at the perimeter. We've been critical of some of his play style. But you know what? When he took that ball and he ran it into the end zone, at that point, you're like, okay, Vikings are starting to wake up. JJ McCarthy is starting to wake up. And obviously, and there's one other thing you need to mention. The kryptonite for Ben Johnson's zone-busting offense, what is it?
Yeah, exactly, the man coverage. And what we saw in that first half, I'll tell you what, that offense was tearing us up in zone coverage. And then the Vikings, they started dipping into man coverage, bringing a lot more blitz, and they played a lot of. They called it the 6-1 defense that Brian Flores likes to play. And man, I'll tell you what, they struggled after the Vikings started dipping into man coverage. It was funny to watch. The zone coverage. Ben Johnson's big thing is that zone coverage beat. That's what he does. He beats zone coverage, and that's okay. Like I said, the league is evolving toward that. But now teams are starting to realize we got to start manning these guys up. Otherwise, they're going to kill us all day. And that's what the Vikings did. They manned them up, and they beat them, and they dominated that second half. Absolutely dominated. The Bears scored 7 points in the fourth quarter. They got outscored. I mean, in such a monumental way. The Vikings just leveled them after that. And
outscored 21-7.
Yeah. In the second half of that game, 21-7. I mean, I think that says a lot about how teams can change what they're doing and make that halftime adjustment and eliminate everything that Ben Johnson is trying to do. It would not surprise me one bit if the Detroit Lions played man coverage against Ben Johnson this upcoming week and wound up beating him because of it.
I don't know if the question is though, is the new defensive coordinator smart enough to do that?
That'll be another question.
Yeah, I mean that's something that this is definitely a litmus test for the Detroit Lions. This Bears game coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aaron Glenn used to play a lot of man coverage, but things have changed in Detroit clearly. But the Minnesota Vikings, man, they start the season 1-0. I was very happy about it. We're going to see how that goes. But they pick up the W here 27-24, and they walk out 1-0. A few other tidbits of news around the league just while we're on the topic. Chiefs offensive guard Trey Smith, he was limited in practice due to a knee injury and illness. So pay attention to Trey Smith for all you Chiefs fans out there. Also, the Cowboys corner the Cowboys corner, Deron Bland, he could miss multiple weeks due to a foot injury. He just got that massive contract for $92 million. Now he's probably going to be on the shelf for a few weeks.
Yet another player signed to a big bag and then gets his foot hurt.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Exactly. But Jerry is reportedly meeting with defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, who is a free agent right now. So you could see the defensive end Jadeveon Clowney come over to the Dallas Cowboys. They lacked a little bit of a pass rush against the Philadelphia Eagles in the opener this year. So we're going to see if Jadeveon Clowney is going to get signed and possibly will change what's going on over there with Big D down in Dallas. So, yeah, that's our scores around the league right now. We're going to be jumping in right now, real quick here, to the NFL Top 100. We kind of ignored it last week because, Boots wasn't here. Boots is ill this week. He couldn't make it out. So we're going to be jumping back into the NFL Top 100 just so we can get ourselves back on track. We're going to be starting out with number 60 here. This is where we left off. And a guy that Boots, man, I really wanted him to talk about this guy. Number 60, Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean, man, he got drafted. We were excited about it. Boots was excited about it out of Iowa. He was a little more excited about it than me. But Cooper DeJean, he picks off Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl last year, takes it to the house for a touchdown, put Philadelphia up 17-0 in that game. Man, it was his birthday that day too. I didn't know that. But per NFL Pro Insight, Cooper DeJean allowed just 0.8 yards per coverage snap during the regular season, the fourth fewest among slot corners, and the fewest by a rookie slot corner since 2021 with a minimum of 250 coverage snaps. Look, this guy, along with Quinyon Mitchell,
absolutely. It is very, we are huge fans of Cooper DeJean over here. And, we're running into a couple of technical difficulties right now. I don't know why the feed's frozen on my end, but I will say,
lost my connection there for a minute, but we're back. We're good.
I think you're still. Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay, I lost but Cooper DeJean, he goes out. Oh.
Yeah, so you're still good, but we were just saying that we were big fans of Cooper DeJean, when he was in Iowa, and we were big fans of him, when he made that pick six in the Super Bowl, we were pounding the table for him, and 0.8 yards per coverage snap. That means players are getting an average of less than a yard every time they snap the ball against him. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's wild to think about that. Like, he's basically stopping receivers. I mean, with under a yard. That's just crazy to think about. But he picked off Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It was I don't know if we caught this or if my connection was gone or whatever. But it was his birthday that day. I mean, and look, Cooper DeJean's been great for the Eagles. He's been one of the best slot corners in football. I love what he's doing. I think he's a great fit for the Eagles, and I think he fits right here. Number 60 is about where I would put Cooper DeJean in the top 100. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think he's perfectly placed.
Yep, I wholeheartely agree, and he definitely earned a spot in the top 100. He wasn't ranked last year, but it's hard earned.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the number 59 guy, I just want to point out, number 59 is underrated. Look, Matt Stafford sitting at number 59. He's down 17 spots. Look, he's 37 years old. I get it. We joke about how he needs Tommy John, how he's got back injuries and whatever else. Let me tell you something. Matt Stafford last year lost all of his weapons and still, for half the season, and still managed to take this team to the playoffs last year, still nearly almost single-handedly, really in a way, almost beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, I love what Matt Stafford has done since he's left Detroit. He's won a Super Bowl. he executed per Pro Insight by NFL.com. He executed 67 design rollouts this past season, the second most in the NFL, completing 48 of 66 passes on those rollouts for 72.7% for 437 yards, which is the second most, and an NFL leading 9 touchdowns without a single interception. Look, this guy, he's still the real deal. Okay, Matt Stafford at 37 years old is still the truth. He's the guy. And I'm flabbergasted that he's ranked at 59. Personally, I think he should be in the 40s, but I love Matt Stafford. I think he's a really great quarterback.
Yeah, he is tremendous. We always loved him when he was in Detroit. He even, the joke around there was he was Pad Stafford. He would always pad his stats, even though he was saddled with horrible coaches, Matt Patricia. But and he was drafted right after the 0-16 season. So, and that was the turning point, from this first game against the Cleveland Browns, separates his shoulder by getting smacked, and then, he ends up coming back into the game to throw the game-winning touchdown, and then Jason Hansen was able to get the extra point to put him ahead. That film is 4 uninterrupted minutes of cinematic gold. And,
Yeah.
and that just started his legend as, being tough as nails, having that grit, and he as you said, he's the guy in Los Angeles, and the Rams are happy to have him. And as head coach Sean McVay has said, to quote the article, if Rams had it their way, Stafford would keep on playing in L.A. for at least a few more years. So how many is that? We're not sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll see what happens with old Matt Stafford over time. But, man, I'll tell you, I love Matt Stafford. I think he should be higher on this list. Number 58, a guy Boots hates, but I kind of like, Joe Mixon. He's been hurt. He only played 14 games last year, but he had over 1,000 rushing yards. He had 9 rushing touchdowns. He added another 36 receptions for 309 receiving yards. He had a receiving touchdown on top of it, so 10 touchdowns total. He came to the Texans. He finished with 7 games of over 100 yards and at least 1 rushing touchdown in 2024. Only Saquon Barkley had more such games than him that year. So, I mean, he's tied for the most in franchise history for the Texans with those. I mean, look, I love Joe Mixon. I think he's a really good running back. Injuries are an issue for him, but ultimately, I really like Joe Mixon, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, he's had some off the field controversies, which is probably why Boots doesn't like him so much. That's the chief reason. But at the same time, when you can get it done on the field, it gets noticed. He had 0 fumbles last year. Yeah. So, that's another good thing about, being a running back. What's the most important thing to do? Protect the rock. Yeah. Even as these defenders are trying to punch the ball out or trying to hit the ball with the helmet to try to come out, and in this league, it's a common occurrence. So if you can go through an entire season without dropping the rock one time, it kind of helped. He only played 14 games. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, but it still counts.
Yeah, but ball security, and Joe Mixon, he had a small ball security issue when he was over in
Cincinnati.
Yeah, but ever since coming to Houston, he hasn't had those problems, and it's been really good to see. I like Joe Mixon a lot. I think he's a great running back. Love to see him doing what he's doing, but unfortunately, he is hurt right now, so we haven't seen him, and they haven't really given a timetable on his return. It's kind of starting to sound like we're not going to see him at all this season. I mean, who knows? But Joe Mixon right now on the shelf, but for last year's output, I think this is perfect for him at number 58. Number 57 is a guy that seems pretty low. He's down 30 spots. Former Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa. Look, we love Nick Bosa around here. He's the second quickest among edge rushers with at least 200 pass rushes. Nick Bosa is a monster. He's been a monster for San Francisco for a while. I know that he only played 14 games last year. He had 15 tackles for a loss, 9 sacks. He did have an interception, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. he's just a guy that loads up the stat sheet every time he's out there. I love Nick Bosa.
Yep. We do love us some Nick Bosa around here, and coming from the legendary Bosa family, his brother Joey Bosa, longtime player with the Los Angeles Chargers, with the Buffalo Bills now, and Nick Bosa, kind of a bit of a down year by his usual standards, but it still ranked him among the top players of his position, and he went to the Pro Bowl 4 straight times. In his 5th and 6th seasons. PFF put him at a 91 overall grade, 6th among defensive ends, and his run defense and pass rush grades were also both top 10. So, you're not gonna find a guy, that has more accolades with him than Nick Bosa.
Yeah, another guy that we love around here that we're big fans of. Let's talk about Justin Herbert at 56. Look. Last year, he gets taken under the Harbaugh wing. He thrives. He moves up 19 spots on this list from last year. He was very accurate last year. He was the only qualified quarterback who did not throw an interception while not under pressure last season. He averaged 8.4 yards per attempt when not pressured, the 6th most among quarterbacks. That's per NFL.com, their pro insight. Look, Herbert, I've always been a card-carrying member of the Justin Herbert fan club. I say, and I believe adamantly, that he's going to have a bust in Canton at some point. I think he's a super special player. Look, I think he goes higher on this list after what I saw in week 1. Mm-hmm. What we saw in week 1, he's going to end up much higher on this list. Justin Herbert is a special player. I still think the Chargers take that division. I'm super stoked to see Justin Herbert on this list, but I can't wait to see him higher.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like that. It's just like you said, heads up football. That's the kind of instinct that you need to gain an edge against your opponents. And here's something else too. Herbert was notably good at taking care of the ball in 2024, recording just 3 interceptions. There was 17 regular season games for a 0.6 interception percentage to lead the league. And that made him just the 3rd player in NFL history to finish a season with 400-plus passing attempts and 3 or fewer interceptions. The only other 2 people on that list, future Hall of Famers, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. You want to talk about exclusive company. When you're being mentioned in the same breath as the GOAT, that means something.
Yes, it does. And another guy look, he's down 8 spots. I know it was because he didn't play the whole season, but you got to love him. I think he should maybe be a little lower because he didn't play the full season, but you still got to love him. Aiden Hutchinson from the Detroit Lions. Only played 5 games last year, 19 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. He was on pace to break the sack record last year. If he doesn't break his leg, we're having a totally different conversation. He led the Lions with 7.5 sacks last year, despite playing in just 5 games. It was the fewest games played by a team sack leader since at least 1982, excluding replacement players. Look, the guy, he was on pace for 25.5 sacks. I mean, that's freaking wild. But it was a gruesome injury he suffered. He almost was willing to come back. He said, if we make the Super Bowl, I'm going to come back and I'm going to play in it. That's how adamant he was that he was going to be playing in that football game. He's been back, and here we are, former 2022 first-round pick. He's one of the best at his position. You got to appreciate what Aiden Hutchinson can do.
Absolutely. I love him, and again, he needs help, but at the same time, he's ridiculously explosive off the line. He has a vicious swim move, probably one of the most vicious in the league. He's been in the Pro Bowl. He went to the Pro Bowl his second year. Yep. It's like his week 1 performance, left a little to be desired. Maybe the question is the Green Bay offensive line, but on the other side, I'm like, it could have just been a down day for Hutch. So, time will tell to see if he's going to start, going on that tear again. It's kind of hard to get back to form with, when recovering from a broken leg, but the guy has a lot of heart, and he's passionate about this football team.
Yeah, he sure is. Number 54, Derwin James. Let's talk about Derwin James a little bit. This is a guy that, he in this last season, I'll put it this way. In the 2023 season, he was healthy for the first time since 2019. He got hurt a lot. In the last couple of years, he's been healthy, though. And 2024, he winds up making the Pro Bowl for the fourth time. And you gotta be appreciative of that. He is one of two players, the other being Josh Metellus, to play at least 10% of their snaps on the line of scrimmage as a slot corner, as a safety, and as a linebacker during the last season. He had a minimum of 100 snaps. He also allowed 4.9 yards per target in coverage, which is the second fewest among all slot corners behind Cooper DeJean. Look, I like Derwin James. Tyler used to love Derwin James on this show. We were big fans of him. As long as he could stay healthy was always the big asterisk next to his name, And he stayed healthy. He fits this Harbaugh system, and he played extremely well last year. 93 tackles, 10 for a loss, 5.5 sacks, 7 passes defended. He had a pick. He had a fumble recovery. He just fits what Harbaugh is doing. He's up 29 spots in this one. I like Derwin James a lot.
Yeah, and the Chargers are lucky to have him. And, the two commandments we preach on this show day in and day out are availability and reliability. And it's if he's fully healthy for a season, it's obviously his performance has shown that. So let's just hope that he can keep up the positive momentum. And then we'll see. If this Chargers team can continue to make big strides.
For sure. That is absolutely right, and I hope he can tear it up. Number 53, a guy we love, Jared Verse. The LA Rams, they've got him listed as a linebacker, but he's really an edge rusher. Jared Verse, man, I'll tell you what, this guy was brutal last year. He made our top players, our top rookies list. I think he was number 3 on that list last year. The guy had 76 pressures this last season, second most by a rookie since 2018. Nick Bosa had 81 back in 2019. Look, I love Jared Verse. He was excellent last year. The guy was a complete and absolute monster.
A menace.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I that's all I really got on Jared Verse. He was a beast. He's super talented. 4th in the league in pressures. He had 12 more in the postseason per Pro Football Focus. I'd like to see him hit home a little more sack-wise, but really, he is a menace on the defensive side of the ball for the LA Rams, is he not?
Yeah, absolutely. Him and Braden Fisk, I would not be surprised to see if Braden Fisk made this list. But, I said it before, Aaron Donald left a big void when he retired. But I think these two have filled it very admirably. And the NFL Pro Insight, you might have read it already, but Jared Verse generated 76 pressures this season, the second most by a rookie since 2018. And who was the other guy? Nick Bosa with 81. So, so this is so he's definitely a boon to this Rams defense.
Oh, for sure. Next up, let's talk about a guy that had a hell of a year last year, but I'm a little concerned because he missed camp. Let's talk about number 52, Terry McLaurin. 17 games. He had 82 receptions, 1,096 yards, 13 receiving touchdowns. It was his career year here. Terry McLaurin's had good years, but this was probably the best of his life here with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. He's sitting at 52. He's up 45 spots. Terry McLaurin has done it throughout his whole career with a hodgepodge of quarterbacks, whether it's Taylor Heineke or whomever. He's just always done it. And now he's here with a great quarterback in Jaden Daniels, a great young quarterback who loves to target him, and he's been getting it done. 13 receiving touchdowns. He gained the 3rd most yards and tied for the most touchdowns across 11 receptions. when targeted on go routes during the last season. Look, this guy is special. He gets it done. He's from, once again, Alex,
The Ohio State University.
and he puts together his 5th consecutive season of 1,000+ receiving yards with this hodgepodge of quarterbacks. I mean, it was just wild. It's just wild. He nearly doubled his career touchdowns, in this season. I mean, it's like, wow. It's just crazy. It's crazy to see how things changed for him now that he's got a quarterback that is throwing him the ball effectively and efficiently. I love seeing him actually getting his just due, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dan Quinn, is a part of the puzzle too. Don't forget, for ages on ages, they had Riverboat Ron over there, which, after he left, they had to get somebody else. And Dan Quinn was part of that process.
And let's also give credit where credit's due when it comes to the offense to Cliff Kingsbury over there, their offensive coordinator, who has been extremely solid for the Washington Commanders. Like Cliff Kingsbury's the real deal. He's a quarterback whisperer. We've talked about that. And I feel like him and Kyler Murray, they just had personality clashes. But Cliff Kingsbury, he's the guy that made Caleb Williams super successful at USC. He's the guy who made, Jaden Daniels super successful with the Commanders. He is a good offensive mind, and as an offensive coordinator, he's been really good for the Washington Commanders. So kudos to him as well. Number 51, a guy that just got signed to a new deal, and our last guy for this episode that we'll talk about, Kyle Hamilton. Hamilton, man, played 17 games last year. He had 107 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 9 passes defended, 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and a partridge in a pear tree. Look, this guy, he is an oversized safety. He led our rookie rankings one year. He was the best safety in football. He's just the man. I mean, and he just got signed to this massive contract, $25.1 million per year. He recorded a 90.1 overall grade, 3rd among safeties per Pro Football Focus, and also ranking top 5 in each subset of pass rush, run defense, and coverage grades. He was just one of 2 players in the league who aligned on over 50 snaps at edge, inside linebacker, slot corner, and safety, the other one being Josh Metellus. He's versatile. He's big. He's a sure tackler. He's a great coverage guy. He's one of the best safeties in football. I love Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, me too. And, the Kyle Hamilton story, kind of goes hand in hand with another safety that busted out. We got it. We can't talk about Kyle Hamilton really without talking about Lewis Seen. And the reason for that is, the Vikings were staring him down, and for some reason they decided to trade down to 32 to give Detroit Jameson Williams. And who snagged him up the very next pick? You guessed it, Baltimore. And because Baltimore has always been a savvy organization, they know who they like and they know who they don't like, and the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, he's the most productive member of that defense outside of maybe Roquan Smith. I mean, he's the man as far as that secondary goes. They were searching for a long time for their next Ed Reed. And, he's not really an Ed Reed type, but he still is that leader on that defense, or a leader on that defense. He still is a guy that is a big playmaker on that defense. He's one of the most consistent safeties in football today, and one of the best safeties in football today. You got to love what Baltimore has been able to do with them, or with him, and what they've been able to accomplish with him. You got to love that. It makes me really, really happy to see that Kyle Hamilton is getting his just due with the Ravens here. Now, moving into our last segment here, we've got our predictions.
Alex, yeah.
Yep, we got our predictions. We're going to jump into more of the NFL 100. When the Bootleg Bettor gets back. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about our predictions. Alex, right now, I am currently leading. I am 12-4-0. You're in second place. You're 10-6-0. And Boots is 8-8-0. So we are currently right in the thick of it. Let's jump into it. here are our predictions for week 2 in the NFL, starting out with the Thursday night football matchup that just got underway, Commanders and Packers. I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Commanders here. I think that even though they had a rough game last week, they're going to go ahead and take out the Green Bay Packers.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. I think the Commanders are definitely the better team. They have more explosive weapons. Don't count out Jordan Love. This one might turn into a shootout. But I think the Commanders have the edge in this contest.
Yeah, absolutely. Boot takes the Packers in this one. This will be the second week in a row the Bootleg Bettor has taken the Packers in one of these sort of high-profile matchups. Next up, we got the Cowboys and the Giants. This one kicking off the Sunday night football, or the Sunday morning football at the Sunday afternoon football, 1 o'clock p.m. Giants and Cowboys. I'm going with the Cowboys here. I think that's a no-brainer. So is Boots. He's also going with the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's the Cowboys. I mean, they got run over by the Super Bowl champs, and the Super Bowl champs didn't really look that good last week. So, obviously they'll get better as time goes on, and so will the Cowboys. And, the Giants just don't have it yet. So, and it's a home game. So, it's a get back game. It ought to be at least.
Yeah, Boots says CD has a big game. Dak played well last week, and he did. Dak Prescott did play pretty well last week, in spite of how that game wound up ending. Next up, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Boots says Pittsburgh, Darnold looked rough, is what he says, and I would tend to agree with him there. I think that Darnold looked rough. I think the Steelers' defense, although they did look rough, I think Aaron Rodgers looked pretty damn good last week. Go ahead and give me the Steelers.
Yep, give me Pittsburgh. I mean, it's a home game. They're going to be waving the terrible towels, and again, Sam Darnold is just not that guy. He's not.
He's really not. Next up, we've got the Rams and the Titans. I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Rams here. Stafford says, what, Tommy John? Look, I'm going to tell you what. I think that Stafford looked damn good last week. I'm going with the Rams.
And myself as well. The Titans still have to figure a couple things out. I'm not counting Cam Ward out just yet, but the rest of that team, not against this Rams defense. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you. Next up, we've got the Jets and the Bills. Boots rolling with the Jets here. He says Justin Fields owes Garrett Wilson dinner. I am going to go ahead and roll with the Bills, though. I think the Bills have the Jets' number. I think this is just, even though Justin Fields and company looked really good last week, I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Buffalo Bills. I just really think that the Bills have all the momentum on their side after beating the Baltimore Ravens. They're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want this to be a trap game, though. Right. You're thinking, it's just the Jets. But again, division games always hit different. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills, but it's really going to be closer than you expect.
Yeah, I don't know that. It could be. I mean, just depending on which Jets team shows up. If the Jets team from last week shows up, we might be having a different conversation. Next up, we're going to go ahead with the Patriots and the Dolphins. Look, the Patriots, they didn't look half bad. The Dolphins looked horrible last week. Boots says the Dolphins look bad. The Miami is in trouble. Their offensive line sucks. I agree. I'm going with the Patriots here over the Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins are cooked. Give me the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's a no-brainer. Next up, the Jaguars and the Bengals. The Jags picked up the win last week, but look, I'm gonna have to roll with the Bengals here. Boots is doing the same thing. He's rolling with Cincinnati. He says their O-line sucks, but it's a good thing they have the better quarterback. I agree with that sentiment. I'm going with the Bengals.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm going with the upset special here. Give me the Jaguars. Basil Rootin' Tootin', may have his coming out party this week. May or may not. Travis Etienne as well. And don't forget, that Bengals defense is a sev. So that's something else to think about.
Yep. Give me some Brian John Thomas Jr. love, please. Next up, the 49ers and the Saints. Look, the 49ers are banged up. The Saints are freaking terrible. This is going to be a weird game. I have a feeling that the Saints are going to pick up their first win of the season here. I'm going with the Saints. I don't trust Mac Jones. The Niners are all banged up. Their offense isn't going to be able to do squat. The Saints' defense last week actually looked like they were a good group, believe it or not. They held the Cardinals to 20 points. The Cardinals struggled against that Saints defense. I'm going with the Saints here.
Man, that is bold. I mean, we thought we were talking about how the Saints would be one of the worst teams in football, but yeah, they will be. But the 49ers are definitely maligned, especially since Brock Purdy's going down. I'm going to go with the 49ers, but it's by hook or by crook, and it's going to be close.
Yeah.
And it's going to be bowling shoe ugly.
Yep. Boots says San Francisco coaching will get it done. So that's what he believes.
That makes sense.
Yep. Next up, the Browns and the Ravens. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Ravens. I think this is a no-brainer here. Boots also going at the Ravens, but he says this might be an upset special alert. These divisional games between these types of teams happens all the time. But go ahead and go with the Ravens here for me and the Bootleg Bettor.
Yep, make it a three-peat. But I'll tell you what, division games hit different. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Lions and Bears. It's in Detroit. It's kind of an interesting thing. Boots takes the Lions in this one. He says you cannot lose this one, and I would tend to agree with him. But I'm actually going to go with the Bears. I think that Ben Johnson upsets the Detroit Lions, and everybody goes into panic mode here in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm conflicted. I'm going to go ahead and put my chips on the Lions, but I'm telling you right now, they lose this game, we're going to, it depends on how they play. But if they lose this game, they're in deep trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you. Next up, Broncos and the Colts. Look, the Colts played really well last week, but man, I don't know. I think the Broncos defense may be something to think about. But Bo Nix really had a rough week last week. The Indy defense looked like they had something there. You know what? Give me the Colts here. And Boots also going with the Colts. He said I'd pick Denver if the game were in Denver. I think this game's going to be a close one. Give me the Colts.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the Denver Broncos because you have to understand the Colts beat up on a much maligned and crappy Dolphins team. Yeah. So this is definitely not the Dolphins. This is the Denver Broncos. And you know what? Bo Nix has a bounce back week. I'm calling it now.
Oh boy, I like to hear that. I like to see some Bo Nix. Next up, Panthers and Cardinals. The Panthers looked lost last week. The Cardinals looked pretty darn good. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go with the Cards here. I don't believe in what is going on with the Panthers. I'm looking through the Bootleg Bettor. He's got his picks all messed up. He's going with Carolina here. He's going to go with the Panthers. This is the second week in a row the Bootleg Bettor's taking the Panthers. I don't really believe in it. Go ahead and give me the Cards.
And give me the Cardinals as well. And don't forget, handcuff. If you've got Marvin and Kyler handcuffed, start it.
Start them. Next up, we got the Eagles and the Chiefs. This one, the big Super Bowl rematch. I think the Chiefs don't look like the Chiefs. I think the Eagles have their number. Give me the Eagles.
And it's at Arrowhead, too. Listen, give me the Eagles. And if the Chiefs drop one to the defending Super Bowl champions in Arrowhead, the Swifties start to riot and they start to leave en masse.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you took the Eagles?
I took the Eagles.
Right. Yes, that's right. And Boots took the Chiefs. He says this is Mahomes' moment. But look, I think it's going to be the Eagles. I think we fly high. But in any case, jumping into the next one, we've got Falcons and the Vikings. Boots takes the Vikings. He says Raheem Morris is going to screw it up in some way. Look, I don't think it's just him screwing it up. I think JJ McCarthy hit his stride in the fourth quarter of that game. I think JJ McCarthy is ready to go at an NFL speed and an NFL level now. He's figured it out. This is going to carry over from the fourth quarter, and you're going to see JJ McCarthy airing it out. Give me the Vikings.
I will take the Vikings as well, although don't expect Michael Penix and the Falcons to sit on their sides. It'll be a close game again for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Next up, Buccaneers and the Texans. Look, this one might seem tough, but it's really kind of not. I am going with Tampa. So Boots is going with the Texans here, and he says defense is going to get it done. Look, I'm going with Tampa here. I think that the Bucs, they're ready to go. They're really hitting their stride. Baker Mayfield, they had the shootout with Atlanta last week, and it turned into a really tight game. I think Baker Mayfield's ready to rock now. Go ahead and give me the Bucs.
I will take the Buccaneers as well. Mike Evans continues to have a great year, and Baker Mayfield just shows why he's Baker.
Yep, absolutely. And last but not least, Chargers and Raiders. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Chargers. Boots is also going with the Chargers. He says the Raiders are in a tough spot here. I agree with him because, man, Justin Herbert played his ass off last week, and it's looking like they're going to be on track to take this division if the Chiefs don't get it together. Give me the Chargers.
Yeah, and I would agree. The Chargers are taking it. Raiders will take it to them because, again, division games hit differently. But at the end of the day, Justin Herbert is him.
Yeah, I agree with you. And those are our predictions for this week's games in the NFL. And, Alex, that's our show. We're ready to rock and roll. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing posted here pretty shortly. But, man, the Thursday night football game has kicked off. These teams are rocking and rolling right now, the Packers and the Commanders. And, man, this is going to be a fun week of football. Week 2, ready to rock and roll. I'm going to be joining our good friend Dave Alley and his dad John, who are adamant listeners of the show. They listen every week or every show we put out there, and I'm so excited to be joining them for football. So on Sunday, I'm going to be bringing some layer dip and stuff, so I'm all hyped about that. But, folks, before we get out of here, let's go ahead and talk about a few things. First and foremost, let's talk about It's Your Time Massage. Amanda's a wonderful massage therapist. She does awesome work. If you're looking to book an appointment, she's the best massage therapist in the Metro Detroit area. You can get yourself a deep tissue massage, Swedish massages. She does foot sugar scrubs. She does red light therapy. She does muscle scraping. She does cupping. She does CBD oil, all for a little extra. You can go ahead and get yourself a membership package. You can go ahead and buy yourself a 5-package grouping of massages. She's got gift certificates for you. She does it all. Amanda is the absolute best massage therapist in the Metro Detroit area. You can book yourself an appointment at iytmassage.com, or you can check her out at It's Your Time Massage, LLC on Facebook, and book yourself an appointment. And as per the norm, folks, remember, it's your time. It's your time. Yeah, absolutely. And also, let's talk about Face Kicked Apparel. Sean Stockmeyer, his wonderful wife, Lisa, doing great stuff over there. Face Kicked Apparel for all your custom hats, hoodies, T-shirt, you name it, you pick it, they stick it over there at facekickedapparel.com. And as per the norm, Alex,
get your face kicked in with savings.
Absolutely. Also, Patch Miracle Photography, the best photographers in the Metro Detroit area. Andrew Langland, his wife Chantel, they do excellent work. All of their photos are high quality. If you're looking for graduation pictures,
what?
Baby photos.
What?
First birthday pictures.
What?
Graduation pictures.
What?
Engagement photos.
What?
Wedding photos.
What?
If you're looking to do a special sexy boudoir shoot for that special someone in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Check them out, patchmiraclephotography.com, or you can check them out on Facebook at Patch Miracle Photography, LLC, and you can book yourself a photo appointment. They did my wedding photos. They did my engagement photos. They've done all the babies' pictures. They made me look like a movie star on my wedding night.
Brad Pitt?
Well,
John Holmes. Let's do that one.
John Holmes. Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. That's so horrible. Oh, God. Well, it made me look like a movie star on my wedding night, and they're the best of the best. Check them out, patchmiraclephotography.com, and you will not be disappointed. Also, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on with our good friend, the artist formerly known as Big Willie Dubs Gaming, now known as No Shot Bot TTV. Will's doing some cool stuff over there on his channel on Twitch and over on the YouTube and on the Facebook and on the TikTok.
The TikTok.
Here's my old man moment for the day. Check it out. Big Willie Dubs, the artist formerly known as Big Willie Dubs Gaming, now known as No Shot Bot TTV. You can check him out. All of his stuff is very entertaining. Will is awesome at what he does. Yeah, man, I really am excited about all of his stuff, all the first-person shooters, whether you want him to shave his beard off, you know, you want him to eat hot wings. He's over here doing the Hot Ones Challenge. He's doing all that stuff. Check him out, No Shot Bot TTV. Alex, you got streaming stuff going on as well, don't you?
Absolutely. And if you want to be entertained, look no further than Steel Twins Gaming. Whether you're a fan of our flagship franchise, voice acting, or if you're a fan of the Nostalgic Mondays or the Legend of Zelda Tuesdays, Steel Twins Andy, you know, we both have your hookup. You know, if you go to youtube.com and go to our playlists on our channel, you will see each of our many seasons. And we're on season 16, I believe. No, 17. You know, I got my numbers off. Season 17 with Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. Or you can take a look at the archives for all of our 16 other seasons. It's tremendous. And, you know, and I think we got one more thing to talk about. Let's talk about books.
Yeah, let's talk about books. I Ate Cookies Out of the Trash by an amazing author, Tammy Pruitt, who is a very close friend of the show. Listen, this is an excellent read. It's an inspirational guide written by Tammy based on her real-life experiences dealing with body image and eating issues. She shapes her book with her struggles and how to overcome them, supported with research-based facts and accompanied by her professional advice as a registered dietitian. She lets others know they're not alone in struggling with self-love, body image, and disordered eating. And she's not your stereotypical health guru who runs 7 miles a day and judges people for the kind of unhealthy food they eat. Instead, she's like the friend you never had. All right, she's like the kind that encourages you and motivates you to rise above your dilemmas. She takes us down memory lane where life pitted her challenges against her and what she did to get through them. And she keeps a firm connection with the equally troubling and adverse lives of her readers. Tammy is an excellent author. She's a great person. She's a great friend, and she's a scientist.
Science.
Yes, science. She is a scientist. She's a registered dietitian. She knows what she's talking about. It reads like a conversation, definitely not a boring one. And yes, she does tell you how and why she ate cookies out of the trash. Listen, this is an awesome book. You can get it on the .com, BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com. You just go on the .coms. You can get on Apple Books. You go on the .coms, like Boot says, that you type it on your keyboard and you type it in. You look up I Ate Cookies Out of the Trash. You order it. You can get on any of the .coms and you enjoy yourself a good read. It's an excellent book. Please check it out. I Ate Cookies Out of the Trash by Tammy Pruitt. We would love it if you did. Not ate cookies out of the trash, but read the book. But in any case, that is our show. Alex, man, week 2, here it comes, man. We're ready to rock. Football is underway.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. And, the Commanders and the Packers are on the field right now duking it out. Nobody scored yet. So you still have time to punch your ticket for the show. So get on that Amazon Prime. You know you want to.
Absolutely. Check it out. And folks, we're so glad that you're joining us. We've gotten a lot of new listeners lately. We're glad that people are enjoying the show. We're glad that people have been tuning in ever since the NFL Combine, which we will be back at this upcoming year. So if you do see us at the NFL Combine at the end of February, please don't hesitate to come say hi. If you see us out in public, don't be afraid to come say hi. We love meeting new people. We love meeting fans. We love meeting listeners. This is a very cool experience for us, so we love it. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of this show, and we will see you next time right here on the Outside Blitz.
You're probably talking about us. because we're the only ones to talk about. Ciao!